Chapter 1477. This kid has heaven-defying talent. With such a huge sect, it's hard to imagine what heights he will reach in the future. Xiaowushi was stunned as he muttered to himself. Immediately after, everyone followed Su Yi to the conference hall at the back of the mountain. Tall phoenix patterns decorated the hall, and a giant sword with divine power hung in the air. An unparalleled power swept through the entire hall like a storm. As soon as Su Yi entered the conference hall, he saw a few familiar figures. They were Merciless West and the rest. Big brother, Sister Han. You guys came so quickly. Su Yi thought that Meng Sun had already informed them, and immediately went forward to welcome them. Merciless West saw Su Yi with a smile on his face. Light surged in his aged eyes as he immediately went forward and said loudly, "Haha, I knew that you wouldn't die so easily." Looking at the stubborn Merciless West, Su Yi was touched. He said softly, "Big brother, Sister Han is always worried about me. I don't dare to die so casually. By the way, how did you guys come so quickly?" Junior Marshal Uncle, Senior Wu Qing, and the rest had already guessed that you would be fine. Therefore, when the Dark Moon Gate created havoc in the Thunder Sealing Valley, they brought us back. When Situ Muyang saw that Su Yi had returned safely, his heart was filled with joy. His starry eyes were slightly curved, and he was very excited. Oh, the Dark Moon Gate actually had the face to create havoc? Si Gongshang is also a weirdo. Su Yi thought carefully and felt that the Dark Moon Gate was too shameless. Kid, second level of the Origin Emperor realm? Merciless West raised his eyebrows and said in surprise. Su Yi nodded his head in satisfaction. Finally, when he was about to break through to the Origin Emperor realm, his foundation was at its best. He then smiled. "Big brother, take a closer look. Are there any other changes?" Merciless West looked at Su Yi up and down. His aura was long, and his origin chi was very harmonious with the origin chi of heaven and earth. He was completely natural without any impurities. He couldn't help but be surprised. What a gentle origin chi attribute. Merciless West sharply felt the difference in Su Yi's body. Su Yi whispered to Merciless West. Merciless West's voice. "What? You actually..." Merciless West was in disbelief. "Brat, you're really lucky. Looks like the Overlord sect is going to soar soon." At the same time, Merciless West secretly told Impermanence Fairy about Su Yi's situation. Impermanence Fairy was also very surprised. Su Yi scratched the back of his head and said excitedly, "Not only that, Elder Tang and the 3 Demon Emperors of Calamity, have joined our Bawang sect." Merciless West's eyes suddenly jumped. He looked at the 4 experts and couldn't help but say, "Good," 3 times. "Kid, what happened to you inside? Tell me in detail." Immediately, they stopped standing and sat down. Su Yi ordered the Green Emperor and the Yin-Yang twins to wait outside the door. He then told the whole story to Merciless West and Impermanence Fairy. How? After listening to Su Yi's story, Merciless West's vital chi gushed out from his palm and smashed the right armrest into pieces. His face was very serious. How hateful. The 9 Stars Valley actually did such a thing. Fortunately, you escaped successfully and obtained so many opportunities. Otherwise, 109 Stars Valleys wouldn't be enough to pay for it. Impermanence Fairy, who was standing at the side, said softly with a deep look on her face. "Wuching, Su Yi is very lucky. Everything is fate. You don't have to be too angry about the 9 Stars Valley. Sooner or later, Chun Yao will pay the price." After saying that, Impermanence Fairy's body emitted a strong, murderous aura, which made people tremble and their hair stand on end. The 2 consecrators of the Bawang sect are really scary when they are angry. From now on, we must not provoke the Bawang sect. An expert behind Xiaowushi looked at the 2 of them and said anxiously. After listening to Su Yi's story, Xiaowushi frowned and thought to himself. It turned out that so many things had happened when he was not around. If that's the case, Nangong Heng must have some power behind him. Otherwise, Qin Yao wouldn't have listened to him so obediently. Tang Wang listened to everyone's conversation and his face turned green. Shuizhong walked forward and handed the space bag to Sui. Big brother, this is the foundation of all calamities. See, the thing you want is inside. Merciless West's eyes lit up. He didn't expect this kid to really do it. He opened the bag and almost fainted. Sui had gotten dozens of the rare 9-turn dragon scale grass in one go. Good kid, I didn't misjudge you. It's just that the medicinal properties are weak. It's best to put it. Merciless West's voice gradually lowered. Sui also shook his head softly, indicating that he should stop talking. Xiaowushu looked at Merciless West and wanted to say something, but stopped. He knew very well that Merciless West wanted to leave and smiled. Sec Master Sui, it's getting late. Can I stay in your Bawang sect for a day? Sui immediately agreed and let the Green Emperor take the people of Songyun Palace to rest first. After Xiaowushu left, Merciless West handed the space bag that Xian Shuang gave him to Shuizhong. Shuizhong knew that there were dozens of heavenly desire and barbaric demonic beasts left inside. Iron Fist and Gray Hair are dead. Sigh. Shuizhong's eyes lit up. Sui patted Shuizhong's shoulder in disappointment. His voice became heavier, and his eyes were filled with determination. He said, Shuizhong, as long as you cultivate well and become stronger quickly, it's the best way to remember them. The dozens of demonic beasts were also released and brought back to the heavenly demonic palace by the Yin-Yang duo. Boom! The meeting hall was filled with people of the Bawang sect. Sui didn't hide anymore and opened the mysterious space. Sui's body was surrounded by a faint glow, as if he was a deity. An incomparably fierce aura surged out like a huge wave, sweeping through the entire assembly hall. Suddenly, an ancient pressure of heaven and earth fluctuated, and a mysterious air suffused with divine light and filled with heaven and earth spiritual chi directly rushed over, making the entire space become extremely sacred. In the mysterious space, there was a mysterious power everywhere. In the depths of the void, there was a mist that looked like a rainbow. It was so dense that it rippled. Everyone who was inside could feel that their bones and skin were immersed in the energy, emitting a strange light. Tang Wang and Shuizhong, who came in for the first time, were stunned. Sui, who hadn't come in for a long time, was also slightly surprised. Not only was the spiritual chi rich, but there was also an ancient aura that connected with heaven and earth. The rules of space were extremely complicated. It was even more complicated than the 9 stars sea. Chapter 1478. The vitality here is too dense. After you open the divine spiritual veins, I didn't expect this place to expand to such an extent. Ling Qinxue said, in surprise. Shuizhong and Zhuo were stunned. They didn't expect Sui's body to have such a world. They said in a daze, what is this place? It's even denser than the Sea of Calamity. Tang Wang's eyes were even more dazed. He curiously circled around the mysterious space. He kept praising and muttering. What a divine creation! What a wondrous item! After living for so long, there's still such a world. Kid, this must be the reason why you're so heaven-defying. Sui smiled. He wasn't surprised that someone who came in for the first time would have such a reaction. Then, Sui's gaze became deep and tenacious. It revealed a kind of spirituality. His entire body in the mysterious space was filled with an extraordinary Tao connotation. Suddenly, Sui felt that there was something beside the herb field. The space was fluctuating, and light ripples were spreading. His heart tightened. The mysterious space was the foundation of Sui's life. There couldn't be any mistakes. Sui leaped to the vicinity of the herb field. He saw that below the original pool of spiritual liquid, there was another pool of spiritual liquid. Moreover, this pool of spiritual liquid was also in a circular area. The first pool of spiritual liquid was in the north of the herb field, and this one was in the south of the herb field. The two pools of spiritual liquid were constantly emitting divine light. The spiritual liquid was filled with energy and was about to overflow, moistening the entire soil. It was already at its limit. Sui was instantly overjoyed. He quickly took a medicine bottle from the side and filled it. Slowly, he threw a few bottles to Merciless West, Impermanence Fairy, Situ Muyang, Tang Wang, and the three demons of Shuizhong. He said solemnly, "This is a secret place for cultivation. After you consume the spiritual liquid, you can cleanse your bones and marrow, cleanse your spirit. However, you can't reveal anything about this place." When everyone heard this, they also knew the importance of this space. For Su-yi to show this place to them, he definitely regarded them as his most trusted people. Tang Wang and the others immediately consumed the spiritual liquid. Their skin immediately became lustrous, and their eyes glowed with excitement. They immediately sat down on the ground and began to regulate their breathing. Looking at them concentrating on their cultivation, Su-yi knew that when they came out of closed-door cultivation again, there would be new changes. The Bawang sect would also reach a higher level. Su-yi opened the space bag that Shuizhong had handed over. It was filled to the brim with Calamity seized treasures. Su-yi poured them all on the ground and piled them up into a small hill. A surge of medicinal stone spiritual power shot into the sky. Su-yi felt as if the great void deep sea's vital energy in his body was being washed by waves. It was very nourishing and comfortable. "Big brother, you could take the 9-turn dragon scale grass here." Su-yi pointed to a part of it and said, "Okay, after I refine the 9-turn god refining pill, I'll give it to the Green Emperor and the Yin-Yang twins. They've all reached the half-step demon ancestor realm." After saying this, Merciless West picked a few herbs that were growing well and kept them in her arms. Merciless West helped Su-yi plant the rest of the herbs in the flower field. Looking at little handsome Su, who was still sleeping soundly, Merciless West could not help but tease him. "Little fatty, there's so much delicious food. Why aren't you getting up?" After saying this, she felt a little lonely. Originally, as long as there was something delicious, little handsome Su would flap his wings and fly over. "Sigh, I don't know how long he's going to sleep." Su-yi shook his head helplessly. However, as long as little handsome's safety was guaranteed, Su-yi was no longer worried. Cuckoo. In the lush herb field, a huge radish jumped out. It was the blood jasper spirit ginseng. 6th level demon void stage. "Congratulations, Grandpa Ginseng." Su-yi raised his eyebrows and said with a smile. The blood jasper spirit ginseng's beard flew high as he said this. "Come on, look at the few of you. How ferocious are you?" Grandpa Ginseng is still at the demon void stage. However, this space of yours is really powerful. It can really give Grandpa Ginseng a chance to reach the demon emperor stage. Compared to the other demon emperor stage powerhouses in the Bawang sect, the blood jasper spirit ginseng's innate talent was mediocre. Originally, he did not have a chance to reach the origin emperor stage. However, in the mysterious space, everything was possible. Grandpa Ginseng's kindness to me is something I should do even if I stay here for the rest of my life. "I'm willing, haha," Su-yi said to the blood jasper spirit ginseng with a smile. After hearing this, the blood jasper spirit ginseng rolled his eyes. He knew that if he stayed here for one more day, he would be able to provide the spirit root to heal others at any time. Otherwise, he would be used as bait. All right. Do you think I don't know what you're thinking? Don't try to worm your way into being friends with me." The blood jasper spirit ginseng waved his hand. His beard that was suffused with divine light emitted a bright light. "Right, Grandpa Ginseng. When did this second spirit liquid pool appear?" Su-yi asked. "Just a few days ago. The spirit chi here suddenly increased greatly. My cultivation also increased a few days ago. Where did you go to look for treasures again?" Looking at the medicinal field full of treasures, the blood jasper spirit ginseng's eyes shone with endless light. Last time, the blood jasper spirit ginseng was still at the 3rd level of the demon void stage and was close to the 4th level of the demon void stage. In just a few short months, he actually advanced by leaps and bounds to such a stage. Su-yi could not help but be amazed. "Looks like it's because I refined the star energy and converted it all into the mysterious space, causing the spirit chi here to be even more abundant. It's extremely mysterious. On the other side, Shuizhong and the others who heard the conversation between Su Yi and the big radish had already opened their eyes and were drooling over the blood jasper spirit ginseng. A 6th-level demon, Void, stage blood jasper spirit ginseng, was a great treasure. Even the Calamity Sea, there was absolutely no such thing. Consuming it would definitely increase one's cultivation greatly. Seeming to feel the burning gaze at the back of his head, the blood jasper spirit ginseng moved his huge body. When he turned his head to look, he almost fell down. He hurriedly retreated. What's that? The heaven-desiring snow ape clan, the 1,000-faced jade fox, and the crimson deep divine bull. They're all great demons. The blood jasper spirit ginseng hid behind Su Yi after he finished speaking and shouted, Su Yi, you actually lured these great ancient demons in. Do you want to eat me? When Zhuo heard it, she snorted lightly and said with her hands on her waist, What's so great about a big radish? Do you think I can't eat it? I'm giving you face by eating you. Hearing that, the irritable blood jasper spirit ginseng was even more furious. He pointed his thick spiritual root at the 3 demons and said, Say that again? Little fox. What if I say it again? Shuizhong blocked behind Zhuo and said loudly in a muffled voice. When the blood jasper spirit ginseng saw that Shuizhong had also jumped up, he hurriedly hid behind Su Yi and lowered his voice. All right, everyone stop arguing. In the future, we're all members of the Bawang sect. Who's going to eat who? Everyone stop talking. Chapter 1479. After listening to Su Yi's words, the 3 demons returned to their original place and sat down again. They absorbed the rich spiritual qi of heaven and earth. Accompanied by the power of several kinds of medicinal herbs, the spiritual qi of heaven and earth spread out in their bodies, turning into waves of demonic but not evil luster. Su Yi could feel the spiritual qi of heaven and earth seeping into the bodies of the 3 demons through their skin. In an instant, it turned into pure spiritual qi in the golden core. The vortex of the golden core became more and more solid. Mysterious runes surrounded it, and the sacred aura continued to rise. Boy, you've gotten a lot of benefits. When these 3 demons grow up, they'll be incredible. Hey, Grandpa Ginseng, you don't know how many twists and turns I've experienced. However, has little Shuai shown any signs of recovery in these 2 days? Not yet. He's been sleeping. It seems that he won't wake up for a while. The awakening of the demon ancestor realm can only depend on himself. If there's any movement, I'll inform you at any time. Su Yi muttered to himself for a while, then said softly to the blood jasper ginseng, Then I'll have to trouble Grandpa Ginseng. Please take care of this place for me. Immediately, a deep and determined look emerged in his eyes. Seeing that Tang Wang and the 3 demons had entered a deep state of cultivation, he said in a deep voice, Big brother, Sister Han, Muyang, let Elder Tang and the 3 demons cultivate here. We'll go out first. Okay. Swish. The mysterious space immediately closed, and the surrounding space once again changed into the conference hall. As soon as they came out, Merciless West and Wu Chang Fairy bid farewell to Su Yi and returned to their own courtyard like the wind. They seized the time to refine the 9 Revolutions divine pill. As for Situ Muyang, he also returned to his residence to cultivate in peace. After that, Su Yi made some simple arrangements. He called Wang Zhengquan and Nangong Ningyue over to carefully understand the recent development of the Bawang sect. He then handed over the star token he had obtained from the 9-star Sea of Calamity, as well as the space bags he had obtained from the Darking Gate and Nangong Hang to Wang Zhengquan, telling him to properly manage the Golden Hall. He also asked about the cultivation situation and system of the sect's disciples. Wang Zhengquan, who once again felt that he had suddenly become rich, was very satisfied. He followed Su Yi's instructions as if his feet had been smeared with oil. Su Yi suddenly felt that his Bawang sect was gradually becoming popular, so he didn't think much about it and returned to his room. The next day, the sunlight pierced through the clouds, and shone into the room like fine needles. The gentle and warm wind made the entire Bawang sect very quiet and peaceful. In the meeting hall of the Bawang sect, he finally had a good night's rest on his bed, without anyone disturbing him. He slept until the sun was high up in the sky. Then, he wobbled his way to the assembly hall. Wuchang Fairy's voice could be heard from afar. It was like an oriole leaving the valley in the assembly hall. All right. It's just a piece of broken grass. Do you have to go so far? Just ask that Su brat to give you another one. What are you sighing for? What does a woman know? I carefully selected those few stalks. The others don't grow as well as these few stalks. Do you know how many years it takes to get such a perfect 9-turn dragon scale grass? After saying that, Merciless West bitterly turned her head away. She lifted the lid of the wine pot and drank a mouthful, but it still wasn't enough to vent her anger. In fact, Merciless West, Wuchang Fairy, and the others had been waiting for Su Yi in the main hall for a long time. When she saw Su Yi enter the hall, Merciless West's expression suddenly changed. She said in a neutral tone, "Boy, it's better to sleep at home, isn't it?" Su Yi stretched his body. Since he left the Su family and went out on his own, this was the first time he had slept so well. He didn't have any vigilance. He couldn't help but say, "Yes, big brother. You don't look well. Did you not rest well? Or was the result of your research last night not good enough?" Merciless West helplessly shook her head and said, "Boy, the materials you gave are indeed very precious. But you don't know that the most difficult part of cultivating the 9-turn God refining pill is not the materials, but the refining." Sui heard and nodded. Following Merciless West's words, he recalled, "I remember Elder Tang Wang said that it requires 3 soul manipulators with heaven-tier souls to refine it at the same time." Yes, and there are very strict requirements for these 3 souls. Other than the quality of their souls being high, they also have to be tough enough and pure enough. They have to work together to release the energy. Little Han and I experimented for an entire night, but didn't succeed. We even wasted a stalk. After saying that, Merciless West's face was full of pity. She beat her chest and stomped her feet as if she had lost a treasure. Wuchang Fairy frowned. She really didn't want to see Merciless West like this. You're not even this sad about losing me. Stinky old man." So he couldn't help but laugh when he heard that. He immediately began to think carefully. Within the Bawang sect, there was only Lei Yunhe in the Soul Hall. A quasi-heaven tier soul was far from enough. Big Brother was a rogue cultivator. His soul quality was high, but he lacked the skills of a soul manipulator. Feng Qi was a soul manipulator, but she was different from ordinary soul manipulators. Therefore, it would be very difficult for the Bawang sect to successfully refine the 9-turn God refining pill by himself. These 3 heaven-tier souls with such high requirements are really a headache. He scratched his head and walked back and forth in the meeting hall. He raised his eyebrows and raised his hand to touch his chin. He thought carefully, where can I find so many heaven-tier soul manipulators? That's right. Where else can there be more soul manipulators than the Heavenly Palace? Yes, it's the Heavenly Palace. The Heavenly Palace was a sect that was closely related to him. It was an independent sect that was terrifyingly powerful. It had an important position in Su Yi's heart. Back then, it was Old Man Guiyue who saved him from danger. For him, Old Man Guiyue used the power of the Central Continent's Heavenly Palace to fight against the Sacred Mountain. He would never forget this kindness. Guiyue had always invited him to the headquarters of the Heavenly Palace to test his soul quality, but he didn't have the time to go. Now that the 9-Star Valley's strength had decreased sharply, they didn't have much strength left to compete with the Bawang sect. They wouldn't be able to cause any big waves for a while. In the Chaos region, the situation of the second-rate forces had been turned upside down by the Bawang sect. Su indeed had the time to go and take a look. The idea that suddenly popped up in his mind made Su Yi's eyes light up. He was so excited that he danced with joy. His starry eyes fluctuated with a 5-colored brilliance, and an awe-inspiring pressure was released to the extreme. The void trembled, and the surrounding space was instantly covered by an extreme pressure. Immediately, Su-yi calmed down. There was still one more important problem. Now that the Chaos region still had the fifth holy son of the sacred mountain, he had to think of a way to get rid of him so that he could go to the heavenly palace with peace of mind. He immediately said to Impermanence Fairy, "Sister Impermanence, tell the Shadow Hall to quickly gather information. Recently, there have been any sacred mountain disciples in the Chaos region. It said that the fifth holy son of the sacred mountain has also come to the Chaos region, and there are even origin ancestor powerhouses by his side. I'm worried that it will be detrimental to the Bawang sect." Chapter 1480. All right. Impermanence Fairy immediately restrained her expression and was no longer angry. She regained her serious look and replied softly to Su-yi with a serious expression. After that, she left to gather information. As she moved, a fragrant wind blew through the hall. Once Wu Chang Fairy left, Merciless West's eyes were filled with killing intent. He clenched his right fist, and a murderous aura surrounded him like flames. It spread throughout the entire hall, and the murderous aura made people feel as if they had fallen into an ice cave. This sacred mountain is really haunting me. Not bad. Since they've come to the Chaos region, I'll make sure these bastards don't leave. Merciless West said hatefully. The grudge from the Sacred Martial Assembly was still fresh in Merciless West's mind. He was also someone who would seek revenge for the smallest grievance. Turning around, Merciless West thought of Su-yi's expression and frowned. "Kid, you were thinking of a way to go to the headquarters of the Imperial Palace, right?" Su-yi's expression changed slightly, and he said softly, "Big brother, you really know me." "That's right. Other than the Imperial Palace, no one else in the Tianyin continent can refine the 9 transformation God refining pill. I was able to escape this time because of the spatial crack jade refined by the Imperial Palace. I don't know where I can find out the origin of this jade pendant. Ing Wuxiu, that mysterious Lan Noyan, Lord Xiaoho, Lingbao Pavilion should have many secrets. Actually, there's another reason why Su-yi wanted to go to the headquarters of the Imperial Palace. It was because of the Su family. In order to prevent the Sacred Mountain from attacking, Su-yi had asked Elder Gyue to move the Su family. If he could really go to the Imperial Palace, he would have a chance to see his grandfather be filial to him and have a good chat with him. Thinking about it, he had not seen his grandfather for more than a year. He wondered how his grandfather was doing. Was he well? After his grandfather recovered, how strong was he now? Thinking of his grandfather and the Su family, Su-yi wished he could grow a pair of wings and fly to the headquarters of the Heavenly Command Palace right now. This time, Su-yi finally met Su Tian-ke. He believed that as long as he was strong enough, Su Wan-er, Fatty Wong, Su Chun, and Yin Lin would appear one by one. "Kid, the Bawang sect has grown to such a scale. Even if they're not by your side, they'll definitely be proud of you. In the future, the Bawang sect will definitely become a giant in your hands and rule the world." "Good. Big brother, let's work together to make the Bawang sect famous in the 6 continents, 3 continents, and 1 ocean." The two of them looked at each other and smiled. The lofty sentiments in their hearts were instantly ignited. Their hearty laughter spread to every corner of the assembly hall. The monstrous force gently shook off the roof tiles, causing the void to rumble. "As for the Sacred Mountain, Big Brother, we still have to—" Su-yi whispered to Merciless West about the arrangements for the Chaos region. At this moment, a vigorous wave of energy swept in. "What's so happy about? I can hear your heroic laughter from afar." "Huh." Xiao Wuxiu led the group of people from the Green Cloud Palace into the assembly hall. When Su-yi asked, Xiao Wuxiu was actually here to say goodbye. "What's the rush? This kid still wants to keep Elder Xie here for a few more days." Xiao Wuxiu waved his hand and waved his sleeves. He smiled and said, "There's no time. Let's get down to business first. We still have to go to the Blood Sun sect later." "Blood Sun sect?" Su-yi raised his eyebrows. Since when did the Green Cloud Palace have dealings with the Blood Sun sect? Whoosh! Xiao Wuxiu immediately became incomparably solemn. His expression was solemn, and his solemn mood immediately froze the surrounding atmosphere. Sect Master Su, please receive the order. The sudden solemn atmosphere made Su-yi a little confused. His two hands unconsciously stretched out, only to see Xiao Wushu solemnly handing over a pure golden scroll to Su-yi. Shua. As soon as the scroll entered Su-yi's hands, an incomparably resplendent golden light rose from the two ends of scroll. It was as if the light of Buddha was everywhere. Like an arrow, it followed the meridians in Su-yi's hands and directly pierced into Su-yi's mind. Who? In the great void ocean, the first profound gate immediately formed a whirlpool. Surging origin chi carried a kind of dense and hazy feeling as it surged into his mind. Su-yi immediately felt an extremely comfortable feeling. Suddenly, a series of information appeared in Su-yi's mind. The densely packed information appeared in front of Su-yi's eyes. Su-yi's lips moved slightly as he muttered. A name appeared in Su-yi's mind. Su-yi had never heard of it before. Tianfeng ranking tournament? Su-yi asked indifferently. When Merciless West heard this name, her expression also became extremely solemn. Her lips slightly parted, and Su-yi could actually feel Merciless West trembling. That's right, Tianfeng ranking tournament. After handing over the scroll, Xiao Wushu stroked his beard and nodded with a slight smile. He said seriously, Sect Master Su, where else do you think I've been these few months? Following which, Xiao Wushu told Su-yi that the Tianfeng ranking tournament was a rare, top-notch martial competition in the 6 continents, 3 continents, and 1 sea. Compared to the previous top-notch martial competitions held by the various continents, such as the Sacred Martial Assembly in the Middle Continent, the Tianfeng ranking tournament scope was much wider, and its level was much higher. The qualifications of the participants were even more heaven-defying. The age limit was 35 years old and below. In other words, all the geniuses and heroes would gather in one place to discuss their martial arts. It was a good opportunity for everyone to become famous. Every time, 3 months before the Tianfeng ranking tournament began, the top-notch forces of each continent or prefecture would be selected to send a representative to receive the Tianfeng token. The Chaos Region and Barbaric Demon Forest were both outside the law. The Barbaric Demon Forest was a place where the barbaric demon beasts lived, so naturally, it was not allowed to participate. The Chaos Region's people were all mixed together, and there were all kinds of people. The rules were broken, and it was incomparably savage. However, there were many sects, and the wandering cultivators' standards were not bad. Thus, as the number 1 power in the Chaos Region, the Blue Cloud Palace was chosen as the representative for this top-notch martial competition. Elder Xiao Wushu was the person who received the Chaos Region's token. So that's how it is. Xiao Wushu's disappearance was indeed unusual. There was actually such an important reason behind it. Su-yi immediately understood. This Tianfeng ranking tournament is indeed extraordinary. Su-yi praised inwardly. Just the aura of the Tianfeng token was enough to make Su-yi feel as if he was being cleansed by a divine wind. Quietly looking into his body, Su-yi discovered that his meridians had actually undergone a slight change. The aura of his yuan qi instantly rose to its peak. His yuan qi was like a spirit snake, extremely compact, and at the same time extremely long. It was not inferior to his own mysterious space at all. The information you just received is the location and time of the Tianfeng ranking tournament. The rest of the rules are inside. You can take a look at it yourself. The list of participants will be announced on the spot. Xiao Wushu said as he pointed to the scroll in Su-yi's hands. Su-yi nodded his head. Just as he was about to take a closer look, Xiao Wushu said softly, Sect Master Su, this old man believes that with your talent, you will definitely be able to take the top spot in the Heavenly Wind ranking tournament and shine brilliantly. Chapter 1481. Changing the topic, Xiao Wushu continued. However, the Heavenly Wind ranking tournament's requirement is that each continent can only send 3 top powers to participate. The Boang sect is not one of the top powers. This old man has already passed the heavenly wind order to you. I wonder if Sect Master Su is willing to participate in the tournament for my Blue Cloud sect? After Shi Wuqing heard this, he frowned and raised his eyebrows. He looked at Su nervously and felt slightly awkward. The Blue Cloud Palace had been his ally since the beginning. In the Golden Rock Mystery Realm and the Thunder Ceiling Valley, they had been through life and death situations with him. In terms of strength, although the Nine-Star Valley had suffered heavy losses, it was still not something that the Overlord sect, which had been established for less than a year, could compare with. However, such a major tournament was hard to come by in 60 years. It was definitely the best opportunity for him and the Bawang sect to make a name for themselves. If they could obtain first place, the Bawang sect and him would be able to flatten the holy mountain. Su Yi frowned. Xiao Wuxiu looked at Su Yi with eyes full of expectation. After a few breaths, Su Yi gritted his teeth and said, "We are indebted to the Blue Cloud sect. Since the establishment of the Bawang sect, we have always wanted to stand proudly in the blue dome of heaven, pointing our swords at the world. Stepping out for the Blue Cloud sect, forgive me for not being able to do so." After hearing this, Merciless West let out a long sigh in her heart. Her expression became natural again, and the gaze she used to look at Su Yi became much more relaxed. Xiao Wuxiu's gaze immediately dimmed by quite a bit as he laughed loudly. "You little brat, I knew that I wouldn't be able to persuade you. You don't even care about the position of young sect master, let alone representing my Blue Cloud Hall. However, this old man hopes to always be your sect's ally. If you encounter the Blue Cloud Hall in the ranking tournament, Sect Master Su, please show mercy." Xiao Wuxiu had seen the strength of the Bawang sect and Su Yi. If there was really someone in the Chaos region who could rise to the top, it might really be the Bawang sect Su Yi. This kid's rapid rise could only be described as a miracle. He was definitely a heaven-defying godchild that Xiao Wuxiu had never seen before. For so many years, no one from the Chaos region has ever entered the 8 Reverence Board, not to mention the 100 Heroes Palace and the Heavenly Wind 10 Jade Pavilion. Sect Master Su, you have to work harder for our Chaos region. When Su Yi heard Xiao Wuxiu's words, his interest was piqued. He leaned closer and asked, "Oh, Elder Xia, can you tell us more about it?" What Xiao Wuxiu had just said was not in Su Yi's mind. Xiao Wuxiu continued, "Then this old man will tell you more about the Heavenly Wind ranking tournament." According to Elder Xia's explanation, the Heavenly Wind ranking tournament, as the name suggested, was a grand event that used one's strength as the standard for ranking. It was divided into 3 trials. The first trial would be decided by the sect. 800 people would be chosen to enter the 8 Reverence Board, and they would be seen as the future pillars of the Sky Barbarian world. After the Great Battle, the 8 Reverence Board would be distributed to every sect in every continent, because they had the strength of the younger generation that was recognized by the most powerful ancient family in the continent, and they had the support of the family behind them. The 8 Reverence Board members would be treated with respect and treated as VIPs, and all kinds of resources would be given to them. At the same time, the 800 heroes would receive gifts from the organizers. Of course, the first place on the 8 Reverence Board would receive the most. 3 days later, in the second trial, the young heroes on the 8 Reverence Board would fight in pairs to determine the remaining 100 godchildren of the 100 Heroes Palace. These 100 would directly appear on the Heavenly Wind Jade Wall, enter the 100 Heroes Palace, and receive gifts from the ancient families. The 8 Reverence Board would be renewed every 60 years, and the 100 Heroes Palace would not change for the next 60 years. Therefore, the 100 Heroes Palace's children of the godchildren of the 100 Heroes Palace were revered by tens of thousands of people. These 100 people were the most outstanding young heroes in the entire Sky Barbarian world, and they enjoyed the glory of the world. They were all people who could directly become elders of any sect. 5 days later, the third trial would be held. The 100 best of the best would directly receive the final test from the ancient families. The remaining 10 people would become the new 10 owners of the Heavenly Wind 10 Jade Building, in the Heavenly Wind 10 Jade building was the biggest reward in the entire ranking tournament. The Heavenly Wind 10 Jade building was a small building with 10 floors made from yuan stones. Every floor was an excellent place for cultivation. Not only was the yuan qi inside extremely abundant, there were also many martial skills, cultivation methods, and secret books on soul techniques. One day in the Heavenly Wind 10 Jade building was equivalent to 50 days outside. From top to bottom, the 10th place could stay for a month, the 9th place could stay for 2 months, and so on. However, the first place of the Heavenly Wind ranking tournament could stay for a full year. It was equivalent to being able to absorb the unparalleled yuan qi of heaven and earth for 50 years. Therefore, anyone who could become the owner of the top floor of the Heavenly Wind 10 Jade building would, without exception, become an expert of the current era. 50 years. Su Yi was extremely shocked. According to Su Yi's understanding of the martial Tao, those like Tang Wang, Chun Feng, and Shen Yu who could become Yuan Zong experts in just a few decades were all people with heaven-defying talent. How many people in the entire Sky Barbarian world could reach the Yuan domain realm in such a short time? If he could gain 50 years of cultivation out of thin air, he could directly become an unparalleled expert. Flattening the sacred mountain would be as easy as flipping one's hand. Fighting on the martial Tao, one's sharpness would be the world's greatest power, and one's beauty would be a piece of cake. There are actually such benefits. Su Yi blurted out, looking at Xiao Wushu in astonishment. Xiao Wushu nodded heavily and continued to speak slowly. The most exciting thing was that every floor of the Heavenly Wind 10 Jade building would have an incomparably huge Heavenly Wind Jade wall. This jade wall could cleanse one's bones and cleanse one's marrow. The first place of every competition would be able to cultivate in the jade wall for a full year. Therefore, the first place of every competition would definitely become an unparalleled expert of the world. This included the previously mentioned 9 Stars Valley's Chen Feng. He had also participated in the Heavenly Wind ranking tournament back then, but unfortunately, he did not make it into the 8 revered reverence list. Even so, he became the 9 Stars Valley sect leader not long after he returned. The organizers of the Heavenly Wind ranking tournament are also very mysterious and not fixed. According to the seniors who participated in it, the ranking tournament is organized by the most mysterious ancient clans and powers in the world. As for these hidden and independent clans, no one knows about them. It is said that every time the Heavenly Wind ranking tournament is organized by the ancient clans, it will be organized by one of the top powers in the 6 continents, 3 continents, and 1 sea. Ancient clans and powers? Su Yi's eyes widened. It seemed that there were still many places in this continent that he needed to explore. Yes, there are too many powers in the entire Tian Barbarian continent. Although many of the existing powers were formed after tens of thousands of years of accumulation, they're not even worth mentioning when compared to these hidden ancient clans and powers. Elder Xia, then which ancient clans do you know? The more Su Yi listened, the more interested he became. He focused his attention on Xiao Wushu. Please remember the domain name of this book.com, wonderful book mobile version website.com. Chapter 1482. However, Xiao Wushu shook his head and sighed softly. These clans are all extremely secretive, and every single one of them is the strongest backing of this continent. The reason why the Heavenly Wind ranking tournament is named this way is because it was initiated by the Heavenly Wind Martial Pavilion. Later on, it gradually evolved into a grand gathering of the 6 continents, 3 prefectures, and 1 ocean. Later on, the Heavenly Wind Martial Pavilion gradually disappeared without a trace, but the gathering has never stopped. Xiao Wushu continued mysteriously. This time, the Heavenly Wind ranking tournament is not ordinary. It's said that a few ancient families are organizing it together, so you must make good use of it. So it's like that. I understand now. Elder Xia, I have one more question. May I ask what ranking has the Holy Mountain obtained in the previous Heavenly Wind ranking tournaments? Su Yi asked solemnly. a flame burning in his eyes. Su Yi's reputation as the king of heaven's chosen and his glorious deeds in the central continent. How could the number one power in the chaos region not know about it? Su Yi and Xia Wuxi were well aware of it, so they were not surprised by Su Yi's question. The central continent is considered one of the upper echelons of the 6 continents, 3 continents, and 1 ocean. As the strongest power in the continent, the Holy Mountain's ranking would naturally not be bad. From what I know, the younger generation of the Holy Mountain is led by the Holy Son and Holy Daughter, right? In the previous Heavenly Wind ranking tournaments, they were the strongest competitors of the 100 Heroes Palace. I know that there was once a Holy Son who managed to enter the top 20 of the 100 Heroes Palace. That was the best ranking of the Holy Mountain. So he could not help but shake his head. The best ranking of the Holy Mountain was in the top 20. That was to say, the Holy Son of the Holy Mountain was invincible among the younger generation of the continent under the age of 35. How heaven-defying was that? However, Sui did not think much of it. That was because the old ancestor of the Xinjiang Gate had once told Su Yi in the form of a remnant soul that the old ancestor had already dominated the continent at the age of 30. He was the abnormal existence who had single-handedly created the Xinjiang Gate. The old ancestor is truly heaven-defying. Compared to the invincible younger generation, the old ancestor is unrivaled in the world, unrivaled. How many holy sons are there between the patriarch and me? Su Yi instantly felt immense pressure. He could still fight against an origin ancestor by relying on his external strength and weapons. If he really encountered a perfect origin ancestor 3rd level or above, he would only be able to passively take a beating if his soul couldn't find a loophole. Good, then I'll go. All right, the Chaos region can only send 3 forces. If the Blood Sun sect wants to go, wouldn't it be the 9-Star Valley? Su Yi's voice trailed off. Xia Wushu immediately frowned, and a cold snort came out from the tip of his nose. Arrogant qi shot out, and boundless waves of qi surrounded Su Yi and Merciless West. If it wasn't for the Lightning Ceiling Valley, your Bawang sect and the 9-Star Valley would really make it difficult for me to choose. Now that the 9-Star Valley's vitality has been greatly damaged, they probably won't have enough energy to prepare for the Tianfeng ranking tournament. Let Chen Yao pay the price for his stupidity. Xia Wushu immediately retracted his energy, but the cold light in his eyes still surged. It was like a sharp sword in the dark night that could see through one's heart. The heavens are still fair. Reincarnation of the heavenly Tao. 9-Star Valley. Merciless West's face was also gloomy, and she didn't say a word. After a long while, Su Yi broke the gloomy atmosphere and cupped his fists. Thank you, Elder. The Bawang sect will definitely prepare well. Good. I hope that you can make the Chaos region proud and tell the world that even a wandering cultivator can achieve great things. Then, Sect Master Su, I won't disturb you any longer. I still have to go to the Blood Sun sect. Just as Su Yi was about to speak, Xia Wushu's figure shot out like a storm. In an instant, he had already disappeared into the blue sky, leaving behind a string of small black shadows. Looking at Xia Wushu's departing figure, Su Yi couldn't help but sigh in his heart. The strength of an origin ancestor is still too strong. This kind of movement technique really makes me feel powerless. I must quickly increase my strength before the Tianfeng ranking tournament. I won't be so lucky as to meet an origin ancestor with a demon in his soul again. Seeing that Su Yi was deep in thought, Merciless West opened the wine jug and drank 2 mouthfuls of wine. She said resolutely, Kid, when and where will it be held? Su Yi came back to his senses, and a resolute voice came from Su Yi's throat. 1 month from now, Yuzhou. Yuzhou? Isn't that? Merciless West said with some surprise. Yuzhou was a continent within the 6 continents, 3 continents, and 1 sea. The strongest power there was the demon subduing sect. Su Yi nodded. Coincidentally, there were many things that were closely related to Yuzhou. Nangong Hang and the mysterious treasure chest picture showed that they were closely related to the demon subduing sect. Yuzhou couldn't escape this trip. Big brother, get Mu Yang, the Green Emperor, and the rest to come over. We need to make preparations. We must get first place in the Tianfeng ranking tournament this time. How about this? I'll make another bet with you. Sue, he said with a smile, as if he was cheering himself on. Merciless West rolled her eyes. Back then, the Sacred Martial Assembly had started because of the bet he made with Sue E. If he could get first or second place in the Sacred Martial Assembly, he would join the non-existent Bawang sect. Time flowed like water, and the affairs of the world flourished. Who would have thought that the casual promise he made back then would become reality in the blink of an eye, and on such a large scale? It was truly a miracle. You brat, I won't find it strange no matter what. Merciless West's Yuan Qi surged, and like a ray of light, she went to find the Green Emperor and the rest. Only Sue E was left in the fiery red meeting hall. Looking at the ancient and serene Bawang sect, Sue Yi's emotions were ignited like a spark, and the corner of his mouth curved upwards. Didn't the Bawang sect also start from nothing? The Tianfeng ranking tournament will definitely remember my name. Sue, top 20? I want first place. Sue Yi's eyes shone with a sharp light, and his fiery red robes fluttered in the wind. Chaos region, a nameless valley. 2 crippled disciples of the Sacred Mountain were lying on the ground like half-dead people. Their faces were pale, and because their Dantian spiritual sea had been destroyed, they were extremely weak, and their eyes were lifeless. Dong Dong, where are the other 2 disciples? 2 hooded figures with unparalleled Yuan Qi flew out from the depths of the valley. Their aged voices were like a giant bell, causing people's hearts to tremble. Elders, please lead the way. A disciple of the Holy Mountain led the way with a courteous look on his face, following which 2 origin ancestor experts, who had been with the 5th Holy Son Shui Honglu, slowly landed in front of the crippled disciples. A domineering and resolute holy qi surged out of them, and their eyes were incomparably cold. Immediately, everyone shut their mouths. The 3 Sacred Mountain disciples who had led the way had already retreated behind them. Looking at the crippled disciples on the ground, their eyes were filled with disdain and contempt, but they did not dare to do anything. Chapter 1483. Seeing the arrival of the elder, the 2 disciples immediately became spirited. Every step they took was incomparably difficult. They endured the intense pain and crawled to the feet of the elder, crying bitterly and twitching incessantly. "Elder, save us. We still want to practice martial arts." After saying that, the 2 disciples cried like wolves, their faces twisted to the extreme. Bang! A strong wind swept out directly, and the divine pressure was impressive. In the full view of the golden light, an illusory footprint ruthlessly kicked the chest of one of the disciples. The other disciple who was attacked by the strong wind directly rolled under the tree, blood seeping out of the corner of his mouth. His eyebrows drooped as he looked at the elder of the holy mountain with blood oozing out of his mouth. Suddenly, the disciple who was kicked spat out a mouthful of blood. His chest caved in at a terrifying angle. His eyes popped out and his face turned purple. He was paralyzed to the side and couldn't be more dead. "You're not as good as others, yet you're still so noisy. You don't deserve to be a disciple of the holy mountain." An old voice from the robe immediately set off ripples in the space, like turbulent waves pouring into the ears of the disciples present. The disciples behind hurriedly circulated their vitality and covered their ears to block the sound waves. Their faces were full of pain. "Hurry up and speak. Who injured you?" The other elder in the robe roared in a low voice. "It's Sui. It's Sue E who burned senior brother Chung and destroyed our Dantian." The crippled disciple under the tree struggled to crawl on the ground, kowtowing constantly. His body was trembling like a sieve, and he did not dare to make a sound. The 2 elders in the robe swept out overbearingly, and the calm void was suddenly hazy and surrounded by light. Their figures were like gods descending, making gods tremble for no reason. "Oomph. Good for you, Sue E. I haven't settled the score with you at the Sacred Martial Arts Conference, and you still dare to do evil in the chaos region. You've gone too far, and you deserve to die. I want the Bawang sect to pay with their lives." Bang! The elder in the robe roared violently, and a monstrous golden light burst out. The vitality around him seemed to have attracted the energy of heaven and earth. A ray of light shot out from his palm, overbearing and fierce, directly shrouding the disciple under the tree. "You're just a cripple. There's no value in your existence. Practice martial arts in your next life." Immediately, a mysterious and vast aura spread throughout the entire valley. It was as if it carried with it a supreme divine might that could shake the 9 heavens. It was vast and mighty, and the entire valley trembled incessantly. The ground shook and the mountains shook. Under the corrosion of the golden light, the 2 disciples were immediately turned into a pile of fine powder and scattered with the wind. The golden light filled the sky. What a powerful Saint Ruler Chi! The 3 disciples behind him were incomparably moved. Their expressions were solemn as they stood respectfully, not daring to move in the slightest. The boundless pressure was like an iron hand firmly clamping down on the disciples, making it difficult for them to breathe. But after a long while, the holy mountain elder, who still had some breath left, managed to retract his yuan qi in absolute domain. The disciples gasped carefully as if they had been pardoned. Shua! A divine light with a sharp aura suddenly swept across the hill. Everyone's eyes slightly fluctuated. The divine light filled the air. The resplendent golden light became more and more dazzling, emitting a blazing divine radiance. The wind and clouds whistled, and the space hummed. The void rumbled, and a thunderous sound was especially ear-splitting. A figure broke through the void, bringing with him a storm, arriving at lightning speed. How could this be? This aura is so strong. The 2 robed elders' brows raised slightly as they looked at the figure within the divine light in disbelief. The figure bowed slightly, and the disciples behind them even directly knelt down when they saw the figure, as if a saint had descended. "Welcome, Holy Son!" Everyone present shouted out loudly in unison, and their voices shook the heavens as wave after wave shuttled back and forth within the gorge. The golden divine light gradually dispersed, and a handsome and unruffled man appeared. His face was calm, and his entire body was covered in a faint golden light that was hazy and enshrouded, causing him to be incomparably divine, and he gave others a feeling of submission. It was precisely the holy mountain's 5th holy son, Shui Honglu. He wore a sleeved shirt with golden patterns, and his black hair was like a waterfall that was like a trickle in the dark blue night. His eyes were bright like stars, his face was clear like jade, and his slanted brows were slightly raised. At the instant Shui Honglu descended to the ground, he stood with his hands behind his back, and he really looked like a young master that should have walked out from a painting. His handsome face that was like a flying swan was overbearing and fierce. Like a saint ruler that looked down upon the heavens and the earth, his impressive pressure once again swept through the gorge, and his deep and bright eyes exuded bone-piercing coldness. "Holy Son, aren't you only at the 9th level of the origin stage? How did you advance by leaps and bounds? You actually broke through to the 2nd level of the Origin Emperor stage." Reaching the 2nd level of the Origin Emperor stage at the age of 30 was considered an outstanding talent among the generations of Holy Sons. I was originally at a bottleneck, but I obtained some fortuitous encounters in the Golden Rock Hidden Realm, and I have been cultivating in the Treasure Tower. Who would have thought that I would have a breakthrough recently? Shui Honglu said disapprovingly. There wasn't a trace of expression on his cold face. The 2 elders were still looking at the 5th holy son in shock. In just a few months, he actually broke through from the 9th level of the Origin stage to the 2nd level of the Origin Emperor stage. It was rumored that the 5th holy son's cultivation time wasn't the longest, but his comprehension was the highest among all the holy sons. His natural disposition was unsociable, but his strength was outstanding, and he was an extremely terrifying existence. "Holy Son, It's time for you to raise your strength. The Holy Mountain sent a letter saying that the Heavenly Wind ranking tournament is about to begin. I believe that Holy Sun will definitely be able to shine in front of those ancient clans in the 6 continents, 3 prefectures, and 1 ocean. Spread the name of our Holy Mountain and let the world see it. Hearing that, Shui Honglu raised his starry eyebrows, and a strange fluctuation emerged in his eyes. He stood tall and straight as he looked at the dilapidated scene and the blood-stained ground in front of him. There wasn't any change in his cold face. His tall and straight figure was like a jade tree that rippled with brilliance from afar. He coldly looked at the 2 elders and said, "Elder Su, what happened?" His voice was cold and emotionless, as if the 2 elders had just killed 2 ants, and it was extremely normal. Su-yi crippled their cultivation. The disciples of the Holy Mountain can't be humiliated, so this old man will send them on their way. Holy Sun, the Holy Sovereign has summoned us to discuss something important. Let's return to the mountain as soon as possible. Elder Su quickly changed the topic. When he mentioned the Holy Sovereign, his voice obviously trembled, and his body was even more respectful. He didn't dare to be negligent. Su-yi, this Su-yi wants to fight the Holy Mountain to the end? How dare he? After saying that, not only was Shui Honglu not angry, but he was even more interested. His deep eyes looked at the horizon, and the illusory figure around him was hazy. He was incomparably sacred, as if an ancient god had descended. His eyes were like 2 brilliant suns, mixed with a ruthless and cold chill. His surging origin chi was like a tornado that split in half, accompanied by an astonishing ancient pressure. Shui Honglu didn't pursue the matter and continued to ask, "Other than that, what's happening in the Chaos region recently?" Elder Su replied, "When the Holy Sun was in seclusion, 9 Stars Valley was turned upside down by Su-yi. 2 origin ancestor powerhouses lost their lives to this little bastard. The Bawang sect is showing signs of becoming the 4th force in the Chaos region." Chapter 1484. Another elder exuded a murderous aura, causing his robes to flutter like cold needles. He said fiercely, "I already know where the Bawang sect is. Do you want us to directly destroy the Bawang sect? Allowing a tiger to roam free will only invite calamity." Holy Sun, a trace of displeasure flashed across Xiahong Lu's face, but he did not care. He said coldly, "I have been out for a long time. Many people in the Holy Mountain should already know about it, right?" Yes, and recently, the number of spies in the Chaos region has increased. I'm afraid the entire Chaos region knows about it. A disciple just reported that the Great Holy Sun and the others have already met with the Holy Senior and said many things about you in front of the Holy Senior. Elder Su said embarrassedly, afraid that he would explode at any moment. What did they say? The 5th Holy Sun asked coldly, and a powerful aura immediately spread out. Elder Su paused, bowed even lower, and said with a trembling voice, "I also heard that the Great Holy Sun and the others said that you did not care about the Holy Mountain's reputation. They said that you actually went personally for such an ant." The Holy Senior did not say anything, but he was worried that you would be targeted by the other 9 great forces. The Tianfeng battle is imminent, and there cannot be any mishaps. Haha, a bunch of idiots. Su-yi, that little thief, killed a disciple of the Holy Mountain. Although he is detestable and should die, those idiots from the Holy Mountain are not even an origin ancestor. Su-yi does have some skills, but I did not come to the Chaos region just for an ant like him. After speaking, Naren Ryu's eyes became even more dazzling. Her aura surged, shaking the void, and she had a powerful aura that could sweep through all directions. The 2 elders quickly knelt on the ground and said softly, "The 5th Holy Sun is extremely talented and far-sighted. You will definitely be able to capture Su-yi and make a name for yourself in Tianfeng." Xiahong Lu waved his hand, and his long robes fluttered. A majestic aura surged out as he said in a deep voice, "Since that is the case, you should go back as soon as possible. The Chaos region is filled with people. Do not implicate the holy mountain. Xiahong Lu added, our sacred mountain won't go to your doorstep to exterminate an ant. Don't spread the news that I came to the chaos realm for seclusion. As for Su Yi, since he had humiliated the holy mountain in the sacred martial assembly, then in the heavenly wind battle, I will let the whole continent see him crushed under my feet. He can't even withstand one blow. Let's go. Shuehong House gave the order, and the people from Holy Mountain rose up into the air. Golden lights expanded and dazzled. A terrifying chi filled the air and rose up into the air. The crowd quickly disappeared from the valley. Edited by Lifer. Finger Fox. The setting sun was shrouded in clouds and mist. It was a scarlet sunset and a blood-colored setting sun. In front of the inky blue mountain peak, a ribbon-like mist emerged and concealed the mountain peak. It painted a picture of abundant mountains and rivers, just like a fairyland. Whoosh! A beautiful figure dressed in red appeared. Her figure was so graceful that she couldn't even be held in one hand. The two crescent blades in her hands were spinning rapidly. They carried a monstrous wave of chi with them as they swirled around the woman's white wrists. A cold light flashed, and it was extremely sharp. Whoosh, whoosh. The blade light was clear and unparalleled as it spun through the air. The figure dressed in red had a swallow-like expression and merged with the setting sun, outlining a beautiful and resplendent golden scene. The sand raised high up into the air, and the mountain peak behind her formed a sea of fiery red mountains. The crescent blades in the hands of the beautiful figure drew an arc. Her clothes fluttered in the wind, and she looked valiant and formidable. The beautiful figure floated down. Her figure was exquisite under her fiery red dress. Her jet-black hair was gently tied into a flowing cloud bun. Her starry eyes were as clear as water. Her body was untainted by dust, and she looked like a fairy with an otherworldly temperament. Her eyebrows were like cherry blossoms, and her eyebrows were like an ink painting. Under the reflection of the setting sun, the girl in red seemed to be shrouded in a layer of scarlet gauze. She seemed real and illusory at the same time, like a blooming lotus. She was indescribably beautiful and ethereal. Oh, she was 17 or 18 years old. She was the Saintess Lu Ruashi. Her beautiful face had curved eyebrows and 2 rows of dense eyelashes that fluttered like a fan. Her smooth skin revealed a faint red hue due to her cultivation. Her thin red lips were slightly exposed as she gently breathed out a fragrance. I wonder what that guy's cultivation is now. What did he go through in such a long time? Lu Ruashi's beautiful eyes were black and clear as she looked at the remnant blood. Her shapely eyebrows were slightly curved, and her peach cheeks were slightly red. Don't think that I will forgive you just because you saved Man City. Live well. I will personally take your life. Don't die in the hands of others. This was the letter that Lu Ruashi left for Su Yi. Lu Ruashi and Su Yi had only met twice. Ever since they parted in Man City, Su Yi went to chase after the remnants of the Undying Sect. She was brought back to the Sacred Mountain by Attendant Wang and Uncle Guan. Since then, they had not seen each other again. I heard that he seriously injured Naren Ruyu and became famous in the Sacred Martial Assembly. It seems like his injuries from the battle in Man City have completely healed. When can we meet again? Should I take his life when we meet again? Lu Ruashi's crescent brows were tightly knitted. She seemed to be struggling. Suddenly, Su Yi was bathed in blood and looked like a killing god. The image of him holding the shabby sword on the city wall appeared in Lu Ruashi's mind again. It seems like he is different from what I am thinking. Why do I keep thinking about him? We have only met twice, and he obviously took advantage of me in public. Lu Ruashi pursed her cherry lips tightly as she recalled how Su Yi kissed her in public when she was young. Her snow-white skin was dyed with a crimson red. A young girl walked towards Lu Ruashi from afar. Her slender and beautiful legs, the curves of her chest, and her slim waist formed a moving curve. She was completely different from Lu Ruashi in that she had a mature and charming beauty. Lu Ruashi heard the sound and gently turned her head. A charming but not charming face appeared. It was Lu Ruoxi's senior sister, Li Ling, senior sister. Did you bring me some good news again? Li Ling smiled faintly and said softly to Lu Ruoxi, "Can I come to see you if I have nothing to do?" Speaking of which, when did you break through to the first level of the Origin Emperor realm? Your potential is really too terrifying. No wonder the Lord is full of praises for you. Senior sister, don't laugh at me. If it wasn't for the care of the Lord and the other martial uncles, I wouldn't have been able to develop so much. Li Ling squinted her almond eyes and blushed as she looked at Lu Ruoxi with a smile. Your strength is enough to participate in the Heavenly Wind ranking tournament. Lu Ruoxi's eyes widened as her spirituality overflowed. Her every frown and smile was elegant. The Heavenly Wind ranking tournament is finally starting? Then I finally have a chance, Lu Ruoxi said in surprise. Lu Ruoxi heard from the Lord that the Heavenly Wind ranking tournament was held once every 60 years. It was extremely rare and was the biggest test in a cultivator's life. Yes, with your terrifying progress, you will definitely be a strong contender for the Heavenly Wind ranking tournament. You might even achieve a better result than the top 20. However, it won't be that easy. Li Ling smiled. Chapter 1485. Oh, senior sister, do you know something? Which sect has produced another peerless genius? Lu Ruoxi asked Li Ling with great interest as she ran her hand across her pitch-black hair and gently wiped away a drop of fragrant sweat on her forehead. Yes, Su Yi, who was in the limelight during the Sacred Martial Assembly, turned the Chaos region upside down. I heard that his cultivation is improving at an incredible speed. The fifth Holy Son went to meet him as soon as he came out of seclusion. Lu Ruoxi exclaimed in surprise as she frowned and shouted, "Senior Brother Shui? Senior Brother Shui is a peerless genius. What happened to Su Yi?" Li Ling was surprised and said doubtfully, "I heard from the elders that the first Holy Son went to the Sacred Venerable to complain when the fifth Holy Son arrived in the Chaos region. However, I didn't hear anything about Senior Brother Shui and Su Yi fighting. Senior Brother Shui shouldn't have met Su Yi." Lu Ruoxi's entire body relaxed. Her delicate brows relaxed as she regained her calm expression and said, "Yes, that's good." A mysterious look flashed across Li Ling's face as she said to Lu Ruoxi, "Let me tell you another piece of good news. The Sacred Venerable asked me to summon you to the Sacred Palace. I think you will have a chance to meet your sweetheart soon." "Really?" Lu Ruoxi was pleasantly surprised. The Sacred Venerable must have summoned her to take her to the Heavenly Wind ranking tournament. She had been in seclusion ever since she entered the Sacred Mountain. Now, she finally had a chance to show her strength. But is Su Yi really that strong? Everyone on the 8 revered saints list is a heaven-defying existence. How did he cultivate? How many years has it been? Lu Ruoxi was doubtful. After a long while, Lu Ruoxi finally reacted. Her face was dripping with sweat as she looked at the beautiful figure that had already disappeared into the distance. "Senior sister, what sweetheart? Don't go, you have to explain it to me." "I don't know. The Sacred Venerable is waiting for you. Don't miss it. The Heavenly Wind ranking tournament is around the corner. Senior Brother Shui will be arriving soon. I have to go down the mountain to welcome him." Lu Ruoxi tidied up her attire and withdrew her essence chi. She kept her full moon scimitar back into her pouch. She looked at the resplendent red glow, but her heart felt as if it was smeared with honey. "How will we meet this time?" Lu Ruoxi raised her head, and her glossy black hair fanned out like a jade fan under the setting sun. Her moon-like eyes rippled with anticipation. Immediately after, a sacred chi wave gushed out, and an impressive might spread out. Lu Ruoxi looked like a fairy walking on waves as she disappeared into the evening breeze. In the meeting hall of the Bawang sect, Situ Muyang, Impermanence Fairy, Green Emperor, and the other elites of the Bawang sect gathered together and sat on the east and west sides. Merciless West opened the lid of the wine pot and tasted it carefully. The fragrance of the wine immediately filled the hall. She smacked her lips and said, Everyone is here. What do you plan to do? It won't be easy to come out on top. We have to be fully prepared. This time, not only the sacred mountain, but also the top 10 forces will be there. Sui nodded lightly when he heard that. He turned to Impermanence Fairy and said, Big Brother is right. Sister Han, what's the report from the Shadow Hall? Impermanence Fairy sat on the back of the chair and raised her eyebrows slightly. She said in a low voice, According to the report from the Shadow Hall, the fifth holy son of the Sacred Mountain has been in the Chaos Zone for the past 2 months. He also entered the Golden Rock's secret realm, but strangely, he disappeared after he came out. After that, someone saw the fifth holy son and the origin ancestor of the Sacred Mountain leave together in a nameless valley. The valley was covered in blood, and there seemed to be signs of a fight. Oh, so basically everyone in the Chaos region knows about this? Suyi's bright and deep eyes were so deep that they seemed to have no end. Yes, perhaps the 9 forces outside already know about it. Impermanence Fairy crossed her arms and raised her shoulders slightly. Sui slapped his thigh and grinned. That's great. No matter what reason he has for leaving, it's best that he doesn't get in our way in the Chaos Zone. Humph! What's Sacred Mountain? Even if he has 10 times the courage, he won't be able to return. Our Bawang sect's Phantom World is not to be trifled with either. After killing so many, the one I want to kill the most is the Sacred Mountain bastard. Merciless West became angrier as she spoke. She opened the wine pot and took a big gulp. Suyi's face was also solemn. Without the Sacred Mountain to worry about, he took a deep breath and said, I'm sure everyone knows that Elder Xiaowushu gave me the Tianfeng token. In a month's time, the experts of the 6 continents, 3 prefectures, and 1 ocean will gather in the godly Tiger County of Yuzhou. That will be the time for the Bawang sect to spread its might across the world. Little Sue, we've heard about the Tianfeng ranking tournament before. The geniuses on the 8 reverends list are now the elders of various sects, and some are even the leaders of their sections. Ordinary geniuses can't compare to them. I know that your talent is heaven-defying, but compared to them, you're still lacking. Impermanence Fairy said softly with a worried look on her face. Sui pondered for a while. What Impermanence Fairy was worried about was exactly what he was worried about. Sui understood that there was always someone better than him in the world. With only a month's time left, it would be difficult for him to improve his cultivation. However, if he could win in terms of soul suppression, he would have a slight advantage. Most importantly, he had the Origin Supreme technique, the art of controlling the heavens, and the heavenly demon ancient scripture. He also had the mysterious ball of light, the aura of the golden dragon, and the heavenly demon soul. In addition, he also had a shocking sacred weapon that could rival a level 5 Yuan ancestor, a demon god battle armor, a blood demon killing sword of unknown origin, and a mysterious wooden box from the demons subduing sect of Yuzhou. None of these treasures could be displayed in front of the top 10 forces. Regardless of whether it was during the test or during a battle, Sui had better not use them unless he could. Otherwise, not only would Sui bring death to himself, but he would also bring disaster to the Bawang sect. Therefore, there's still a month's time. I want to go out and train. I want to go to the headquarters of the Heavenly Palace. Suyi's eyes shone with determination. Merciless West and Impermanence Fairy did not comment. They did not speak and fell in a deep thought. Master, what about us? The Green Emperor and the Yin-Yang twins asked in unison. The Bawang sect needs you more than me. The situation in the Chaos Zone is complicated. You are the Demon Emperors and Guardians of the Bawang sect. Help Big Brother and Impermanence Fairy to guard against the infiltration of the top 10 forces and ensure that the Bawang sect can grow stronger quickly. The rest is up to you. This time, the Green Emperor and the Yin-Yang twins did not refuse. At this moment, the Bawang sect was on each of their shoulders. They swore to protect the Bawang sect. It was as natural as breathing. Chapter 1486. Let's strengthen our overlord and rule the world. Suyi's eyes glowed, and a fierce murderous aura spread out. Suyi's voice was powerful and resonant, and every word he said was very forceful. Everyone's eyes were surging with excitement when they heard this. After thinking for a moment, Merciless West took out a space bag filled with 9-turn dragon scale grass and handed it to Su-yi. He sighed and said, "All right, since you've made up your mind, I won't force you to stay. Be careful. I'll look forward to your growth." "Okay, big brother." 1 month later, we brothers will meet again in Yojo's godly Tiger County. After saying that, Su-yi took the space bag and distributed the spiritual liquid to the Green Emperor and the Yin-Yang twin nether. After finishing the final arrangements, Su-yi stood up and prepared to leave the meeting hall. Situ Muyang, who had been silent, suddenly stood up, gritted his teeth, and looked at Su-yi. He said, "Young martial uncle, I'll go with you." When he first came to the Chaos Realm, Situ Muyang came for Su-yi. Now that Su-yi was gone, Situ Muyang naturally had no reason to stay. Su-yi was not surprised by this decision. He looked at Situ Muyang, and Su-yi's eyes lit up. He patted Situ Muyang's shoulder and said solemnly, "Staying in the Chaos Realm is a good choice for you. You can stay here and learn from Elder Tang and Big Brother. Your growth will be very fast." Situ Muyang shook his head and said, "Young martial uncle, I'm going to say goodbye today." "Why?" Su-yi raised his eyebrows and looked at Situ Muyang with a puzzled expression. "Junior martial uncle, you've already surpassed me by too much. Not only did I not help you in the Chaos Realm, but I've also become a burden to you." Su-yi's heart skipped a beat when he heard that. Then Situ Muyang's expression changed, and he continued, "I can get a lot of opportunities by following you, but that's not what I want. I want to rely on myself. There will definitely be a day when I can rely on my own strength to stand by your side, and not just simply look up to you." After Situ Muyang finished speaking, a trace of determination flashed through her starry eyes. Her youthful face gained a touch of maturity. Merciless West and Wu Chang Fairy smiled knowingly and thought to themselves, "Little Muyang, with such an idea and extraordinary talent, you will definitely become an expert." "All right," Su-yi replied loudly. The way he looked at Situ Muyang had also changed, and he laughed heartily. "Good, that's good. Although you call me martial uncle, I actually treat you as my younger brother. I look forward to the day when we fight against the enemy side by side and conquer the world." Su-yi's eyes moved slightly, and his voice unconsciously became louder. "Yes," Situ Muyang replied heavily. Then Su-yi said goodbye to everyone present and left the conference hall. He took Situ Muyang to his room at the back of the mountain. "Senior martial uncle, aren't we going to leave the Bawang sect? Why are we back?" Situ Muyang was confused and full of doubts. Su-yi smiled slightly, and the mysterious light ball in his body shone brightly. The spiritual chi whirlpool quickly gathered and swept out, and the mysterious space opened again. "Since you want to gain experience, you have to let go of everything." Su-yi's cold charm startled Situ Muyang slightly. As his eyes trembled slightly, a surge of spiritual chi rushed toward him. Su-yi and Situ Muyang gradually walked toward Tang Wang, Shuizhong, and the others who were still cultivating. The three demons closed their eyes tightly, and a powerful aura surged around them. Colorful lights and demon aura filled the air, accompanied by mysterious runes that were constantly lingering around them like spiritual snakes. Tang Wang's spiritual chi was dense, and his whole body was crystal clear. Shrouded in the light, he fell into an epiphany. The hurricane roared, and Su-yi could feel that Shuizhong, Zhuoro, and the others' demon clan auras were constantly rising like rockets. They are already at LV6 of the Demon Royal Realm. Su-yi could not help but be shocked. When he came in, Shuizhong and the others had been at LV4 of the Demon Royal Realm for a long time. Only a few days had passed, and they had reached the peak of LV6 of the Demon Royal Realm. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. In an instant, in the space, thunder struck and the wind roared. The auras of the three demons were still rising. The talent left by the big ancient demon is too terrifying. Su-yi was slightly speechless. Maybe your spiritual liquid broke through the shackles of their cultivation. They have been at LV4 of the Demon Royal Realm for many years, and there's been no external force to help them break through. Your spiritual liquid happened to help them. Ling Qinshue's soft voice was heard. When you recover your soul and stay in this space, will it be twice the result with half the effort? Su Yi asked curiously. Ling Qinshue's eyes lit up, and she began to look forward to it. She said, "It is highly possible. The aura here is from the Archean era, and it is of the same origin as the big ancient demon's bloodline. It is extremely beneficial for my cultivation and recovery. But let me refine the blood essence first." Looking at Su Yi's surprised expression, Ling Qinshu asked softly, "Are you going to the Yuqian Palace?" "Yes. Grandpa is still at the headquarters of the Yuqian Palace. I have already promised old Guyue that I will go to check my soul," Su Yi said with a frown. Thinking of his grandpa, Su Yi's heart had already flown to the headquarters of the Yuqian Palace. He should have gone there long ago, but it had been delayed for so long. "Okay, I'm also preparing to refine the blood essence that Lanine ancestor gave me in the next 2 days. This process requires a lot of mental energy, so when you get there, you have to be careful. Don't die," Ling Qinshu said unhappily. Even if it was just to see her grandpa, Ling Qinshu knew that Su Yi would definitely cause a big commotion. Su Yi raised the tip of his nose. This meant that Ling Qinshu was likely to enter a state of deep sleep again. He laughed softly and said, "Okay, hurry up and recover. The position of the Bawang sect is still reserved for you." "Yes, actually, to truly recover my physical body, I still need 3 things. They're the moon-devouring Bodhi Gu, serene flame flower, and glazed sky stamen." Su Yi had never heard of these 3 things before. He couldn't help but frown and said, "I have a serene flame flower, but I have never seen the other 2. Where can I find them?" Ling Qinshu rolled her eyes and said to Su Yi, "If it was easy to find, Lanine ancestor wouldn't have personally gone to find it. But I should be able to recover faster than Jean and the others. So if you can find it one day, keep it for me. If you really can't find it, it doesn't matter." Su Yi thought about it carefully and said seriously, "Qinshu, don't worry. I will definitely help you recover your physical body successfully." "Okay." Ling Qinshu responded softly and stopped talking. Rumble. In an instant, in the mysterious space, lightning and thunder bombarded down like heavenly punishment. Chapter 1487. The demonic aura around Juerou and Shuizhong was like a giant dragon. The vast ancient aura spread out, and the entire space was filled with pure demonic aura. In an instant, the entire space was filled with a terrifying ancient aura. It was like a storm, surging and suppressing all directions as it spread into the space. The vast aura between heaven and earth fluctuated instantly. A divine light descended, and the boundless ancient aura suddenly shrouded Tang Wang, Shuizhong, and the other 3. Shuizhong and the others' cultivation finally fell to LV 7 demon ancestor realm. Whoosh! Tang Wang, Shuizhong, and the others were in the midst of the lightning. Their bodies were overflowing with divine light, revealing their crystal-clear bodies. After a long while, everyone opened their eyes. A bright light shot out from their eyes and rushed up to the sky, shaking the entire space. Tang Wang was surprised to see the magical changes in his body. He walked up and said to Su Yi, sect leader. Shuizhong and the others looked at Su Yi and knelt down. Their eyes were full of awe and respect. "Master!" Su Yi was very satisfied. It seemed that they had all improved greatly. The spiritual liquid and the space's recognition of them was enough for them to grow rapidly in the future. "Good. Get up, get up," Su Yi said happily. "Sect leader Su, this is a land of treasures. Thank you for your help." Tang Wang looked at Su Yi with gratitude in his eyes. He could feel that although Tang Wang's cultivation had not improved greatly, his aura and vitality had undergone a brand new transformation. He had even broken the shackles of many years. In the future, Tang Wang would definitely reach a higher level of cultivation. "I'm very happy to see that you have gained something. The Bawang sect will have another force in the future, Su Yi nodded. Yes, I will definitely reach the level of the primogenitor. I will be invincible in the world. Shuizhong vowed, his fierce eyes shining brightly. Su Yi was also looking forward to it. Although Shuizhong and the others were left behind by the big demons, Ling Qianxue and the others had a stronger bloodline. It was very possible for them to achieve atavism. In this way, with Xiao Shui and Ling Qianxue, the Boang sect would have 5 big ancient demons. There is no need to be afraid of the sacred mountain. They could just flatten it. Ha ha ha! Su Yi laughed happily and told everyone about the Tianfeng ranking competition. Everyone's jaws dropped as they were shocked. Elder Tang, do you know where the headquarters of the Imperial Palace is? Su asked. Master, Tang Wang, his eyebrows raised. As he looked at Su Yi, he was slightly surprised. Yes, there's still a month left. I have some things to do at the invitation of an old friend. Su Yi replied. In the past, Su Yi had asked Elder Gyue whether the headquarters of the Imperial Palace was in the Middle State or not. He would need to use the space transfer gate twice in the Middle State and spend 2 days to get there. Most importantly, he didn't know the direction, so he still had to return to the Middle State branch. Su Yi had to use the space transfer gate several times to get from the Chaos Realm to the Middle State, and from the Middle State to the Imperial Palace. On one hand, it was troublesome, and, on the other hand, he didn't know the exact location of the Imperial Palace. Elder Gyue had already shed all pretense of cordiality for him. If something happened when he returned to the Middle State, Su Yi didn't want to owe Elder Gyue and the Imperial Palace any more favors. Between the Middle State and the Chaos Realm is the endless Sky Sea region, and it's not very far. Any city has a space transfer gate, and you can use it by spending a certain amount of origin stones. However, the headquarters of the Imperial Palace are filled with experts, and very few people know the location of the headquarters. Tang Wang shook his head, indicating that he didn't know. Space transfer gate, there's one at the Shunjian Gate. Sita Muyang cried out in excitement. He was constantly thinking that Su Yi could return to the Shunjian Gate. Su Yi remained silent. Seeing that Su Yi didn't say anything, Sita Muyang's voice gradually weakened, and his eyes dimmed. Muyang, the Heavenly Wind ranking tournament is just around the corner, and the people at the Shunjian Gate will definitely be busy. You should hurry back to the Shunjian Gate and see if there's anything you need help with. Su Yi said evasively. Su Yi definitely had to return to the Shunjian Gate, but now wasn't the time. The most important thing right now was to increase his strength and prepare for the Heavenly Wind ranking tournament. Su Yi smiled lightly. Let's return to the Middle State first. Sect leader, this old man, Shuizhong, and the rest will leave first. This is the space-rending jade that we use to escape. Keep it with you. Sect leader's cultivation has improved by quite a bit, and you can try using it when the time comes. After speaking, Tang Wang passed the space-rending jade to Su Yi, and the group left the mysterious space together. Swoosh! Su Yi stood at the peak of the mountain behind the Bawang sect. Origin energy rose from his feet, and the fiery red wings behind his back stirred up wind. Coupled with the fact that he was floating in the air, his entire body was enveloped in divine light, and he looked like a war god. With every step he took, he stepped on a profound handle, and the wind beneath his feet, he turned into a red ray of light and left the Bawang sect. Elder Tang, 3 sovereigns, I'll have to trouble you to take care of the Bawang sect. A resounding echo was left in the sky, and it didn't stop for a long time. Hey, Martial Granduncle, wait for me. Situ Muyang immediately circulated his wind attribute origin energy, and with a light tap of his right foot, he quickly caught up with Su Yi's figure. Looking at the figure that was gradually disappearing, Tang Wang, Shuizhong, and the rest's aura surged, and a strange light flickered in their eyes. Tang Wang lightly stroked his beard and sighed. What kind of world will these 2 gods' children create in the heavenly barbarian continent in the future? I'm really looking forward to it. 3 days ago, in a nameless valley, a few shadows were flying around at high speed. Saint Child, you were in seclusion in the Spirit Treasure Tower, so there are some things that you don't know. In the Golden Rock Secret Realm, the Blood Sun sect suffered a great loss. And this time, during the Thunder Sealing Valley ceremony, the Nine Stars Valley also fell into Su Yi's trap, and their 1,000 years of foundation was destroyed in a single day. Elder Su's old voice faintly came out from his hood. This time, he and the two elders used the Blood Sun sect's portal as a base to teleport. Hearing this, Xue Honglu hesitated for a moment, and a cold divine aura spread out on his handsome face as he said, "What does Elder Su want to say?" Roar. The two elders immediately channeled their origin energy, and a sacred and ancient aura of heaven and earth spread out, as if a saint king had descended. A huge and sacred aura, accompanied by an absolute domain, directly isolated the surrounding 10 meters. The three disciples behind him felt the enormous pressure from afar and immediately stopped in their tracks. They circulated their qi and guarded their spirit to resist the powerful suppression in their hearts. The Blood Sun sect has always had a close relationship with our Saint Mountain. The 10 great powers have been coveting the Chaos region for several hundred years, and all the powerful forces have tried to infiltrate the Chaos region. The Blue Cloud sect has been here for 1,000 years and is the #1 power in the Chaos region. It will be hard to break through in a short period of time, but right now is indeed a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. The Nine Stars Valley can definitely make a move. Your Sulai knows that I will not participate in this matter, Xue Honglu coldly said, and the atmosphere suddenly became tense. The mountain wind whistled, and the corner of Xue Honglu's robe fluttered. Chapter 1488. The two robed elders pondered for a while. After a long while, Elder Su said earnestly, "The Holy Sun is one of the candidates for the Holy Mountain's great leadership. It's a good thing to be engrossed in martial arts, but such a position must also be considered for the Holy Mountain's future. Before the Holy Master and Elder Imo sent us here, they had ordered you to return to the palace, and to do your best to remove all obstacles for the Holy Sun's ascension." The two robed elders were the top experts among the Holy Mountain's elders. Elder Imo was worried about the Holy Sun's safety in the Chaos region, so he sent them here. Hearing Xie Honglu's words, the expression under the robe gradually became serious. Xie Honglu's eyes trembled, and his heart was as cold as ice. His figure moved slightly, drawing an arc in the distance. After a long while, Xie Honglu's cold voice faintly sounded in the sky. "I will go to the Nine Stars Valley with you. You can deal with the Blood Sun sect and other matters." Whoosh! In an instant, the void around Xie Honglu was filled with golden light, as if layers of spatial ripples were surging, and a sonorous sound of wind and thunder could be heard. With a domineering and fierce power, it was as if the holy light was suppressing the world as it rushed in the direction of the Nine Stars Valley. His talent is heaven-defying. If it is not beneficial to the Holy Mountain and does not consider the Holy Mountain's future, it is still useless. The other elder under the robe said heavily, and a chill appeared in his eyes. In the central continent city, the moon was bright and the stars were scarce. The night wind was cold. In the night, the central continent city was brightly lit, dazzling, and gorgeous. The central continent city was a vassal city of the Holy Mountain. At this time, the wine shops and shops on both sides of the street were still in great numbers. The moonlight faintly scattered on the red bricks and green tiles, as well as the simple and graceful eaves of the pavilions. The shouts of the stall owners rose and fell in the market for a long time. The Holy Mountain's 10,000 years of foundation showed the central continent's strength among the 6 continents, 3 continents, and 1 sea. On the stone slabs, the big and small barbaric beasts came and went, and from time to time, they let out deep beastly roars. Their momentum shook the sky, and the noise was awe-inspiring. From time to time, there would be the sounds of energy rubbing against each other from martial artists with profound cultivation, causing the entire central continent street to become extremely lively. Right at this moment, a robust, bearded man, around the age of 30, with a cultivation at the 7th level of the Origin Void stage, slowly walked on the street. The robust man's figure was tall and straight, and his beard was unkempt, causing his appearance to be unprepossessing. The muscles beneath his coarse linen clothes bulged up, and his gaze was like a torch that shone brightly and extraordinarily. Standing beside him was an elegant young man who was 7 feet tall. He had an extraordinary appearance, a sharp nose, and bright eyes. It was obvious that he was a young master of a noble family with an extraordinary background. These two people were precisely Situ Muyang and Su Yi, who just returned from the Chaos region. The two of them stood side by side, and Situ Muyang had a smile on his face as he said to Su, "The young martial uncle, your disguise technique is really formidable. Even I can't recognize the appearance of this robust man. Look, no one in the central continent can recognize you." The martial artists that came and went rode on their majestic, tall, and mighty barbaric beast mounts as they walked on the stone slabs paved with limestone. Every single one of them had a solemn expression on their faces, and there were even groups of soldiers from the city governor's estate patrolling the city. Various origin energy attribute lights illuminated the entire central continent city in a multicolored light at night. These people come and go in a hurry, and not a single one of them seems to be taking a stroll. How strange. Su Yi walked while paying attention to the various changes on the street. There were all kinds of pills, refining materials, spirit herbs, heavenly treasures, cultivation methods, martial skills, and other strange treasures being sold on the street, but not a single person was making any transactions. Su Yi immediately noticed the strangeness, and his brows tightly knit together, looking extremely dignified. Su Yi pressed the brim of his hat even lower and said to Situ Muyang in a deep voice, "When we reach the transmission station, you go back to the Shunjian Gate, and then I will go to the Heavenly Command Palace. Otherwise, the two of us will be too big of a target. Right? Don't call me young martial uncle. Call me Big Brother Feng Yin." Looking at the colorful and bustling central continent city, the scene of Su Yi and his brother fighting the sacred flame once again appeared in his mind, and a wave of hot blood rushed to his head. Su Chun, Yin Lin, and the others were sent out from here, and he didn't know where they were now. Good. Big Brother Feng Yun. Situ Muyang covered his mouth and laughed. Da-da-da. The central continent city's soldiers were all in formation, patrolling back and forth on the tall, fierce wind-blood wolves in an orderly manner. Their expressions were solemn, and not far away, in front of the city lord's mansion, there was a large group of guards guarding it. Big Brother Feng Yun. Did something big happen in central continent city? These soldiers all have dignified expressions, as if they are on guard against something. Situ Muyang had a puzzled expression as he pointed forward and asked. Su Yi lightly shook his head, indicating that he didn't know. His eyes flashed with a serious expression. Him choosing to leave through Central Continent City was already an extremely dangerous matter, and he couldn't care about so many things right now. Not causing trouble was the highest principle. "I'm not too sure. Let's leave first." If they really encountered some great character, the entire city would be sealed, and he and Situ Muyang wouldn't be able to leave for a while. They would really become turtles in a jar, and that would be terrible. Situ Muyang pondered for a moment, and then his heart tightened. He quickly followed Su Yi to the transmission station under the city walls. When they passed by the notice board, Su Yi, Merciless West, and the others' portraits were still hung high up. After more than a year, the canvas was already covered in dust. When Su Yi saw this from the corner of his eyes, his heart couldn't help but be slightly moved. Time really passes quickly. My brothers have already been wanted by the entire Central Continent City for more than a year. I'm afraid that other than the Sacred Mountain, no one will remember my appearance, right? Seeing Su Yi's thoughts, Situ Muyang also lowered his voice. He pointed at Su Yi's portrait and said, "Big Brother Feng Yun, this person is not only wanted in Central Continent City. All the subordinates of the Sacred Mountain, and even all the subordinate forces of Central Continent City, have your portrait on them. When he just left, it really caused an uproar in the city. Even my father was shocked." Su Yi couldn't help but slightly shake his head. Time would eventually erase the memories of the general public, but the Sacred Mountain would never forgive him. Only when he had absolute strength that could completely trample the sacred mountain under his feet would the sacred mountain, this giant rock, fall to the ground one day. The city lord has ordered that no one is allowed to enter or leave today. Those who disobey will be killed without mercy. The city lord's mansion's guards arrived at the city walls at this time and said to the soldiers guarding the city. Then they vigilantly looked around. Su Yi and Situmuyang's hearts thumped at the same time. They quickly turned their heads around. The thing they were most worried about had happened. They really had a crow's mouth. Whatever they said came true. Situmuyang pulled Su Yi into the city. How about you leave first? In any case, I didn't fall out with the sacred mountain. They don't recognize me. Situmuyang said in a heavy voice, I'm afraid that no one will be able to leave today. Su Yi's brows were heavy as he looked at the guards under the city walls. Chapter 1489. Su Yi's eyebrows jumped up, his expression solemn. He couldn't guarantee that the holy mountain didn't know that Situmuyang had come to the Chaos Realm. He didn't know why they had sealed off the entire city, so Su Yi didn't dare to leave Situmuyang behind. He was thinking of a way to smoothly send Situmuyang away. I am the king of heaven's pride, Su Yi. Yeah, hey. While he was thinking, the words Su Yi flashed through Su Yi's mind. He turned around and saw several children standing at the corner of the street. They were all around 7 or 8 years old, and their faces were young and tender. A few children, like a heart circle, were surrounding a young boy of about 11 or 12 years of age, listening attentively to the young boy's story. The young boy's body was dirty, his clothes were tattered, and his hair was greasy, as if he hadn't washed in a long time. When a young boy reached an exciting part, he slowly ascended the stage and pointed his finger at the sky. He cleared his throat, and a cold light flashed in his eyes as he proudly said, After 30 years, who will be an ant? Sacred flame, old man, I will take your dog life. It turned out that the young boy was vividly narrating the story of Su Yi's 5 brothers fighting the sacred flame elder. He then continued, I saw that Su Yi's hand was covered in raging flames, and a tornado-like energy ripple spread out in the air. The saint artifact in his hand collided with the sacred flame elder's fist, and the surrounding energy quickly surged out like a tide. Pong! Then the young boy made a pushing palm gesture, his mouth constantly mumbling onomatopoeic words. After he finished speaking, he paused and narrowed his eyes, watching the reactions below. Wow! Great hero Su Yi, you're amazing. So fierce. I also want to become sworn brothers with Su Yi. I want to be a character like Su Yi in the future and defeat the holy mountain. I want father and mother to no longer have to suffer. The children below all waved their little fists and vowed solemnly. The youth made a shushing gesture, saying with a suppressed voice, I can say that you all absolutely cannot say that you want to defeat Sacred Mountain in Central Continent City. Do you understand? You little idiots. The few children nodded thoughtfully. Only then did the young man continue to talk about the next part of the plot with satisfaction. When they heard the exciting part, they covered their mouths one after another, dancing and screaming. Suddenly, the young man stopped abruptly at the exciting part. The children immediately became anxious and said to the young man, Brother Chu, go on, what happened after that? Did the great hero Su Yi kill the holy fire elder? Puchi, Su Yi and Situmuyang smiled at the same time, watching the children discuss their heroic deeds as if they were serious. Even though they were in disguise, their faces were still burning, and they felt quite embarrassed. Brother Feng Yun, who said that time will erase memories. Look, aren't they here? You've already become a great hero. Situmuyang said with a smile, poking Su Yi's elbow. Su Yi did not say anything and continued to watch. The young man coughed and said with a serious face, Look, it's all because I was telling stories to you little brats. I missed the time to leave the city again. The 3 children looked up at the sky and doubtfully said, It can't be. It's still early today. Brother Chu can't lie to us. That's right. It's not time yet. So why did the city gate close so early today? It seems like something big happened. Elder sister is still in the mountain god temple. No, I have to leave the city. His incomparably greasy hands lightly tapped his dark chin. He thoughtfully looked at the sky and made a decision in his heart. The young man stretched out his dirty hands and said to the children below, "The story after that will be even more exciting. If you want to know what will happen, please, give me source stones." No. Hurry up. If you're late, I'll go to your house to eat." The young man chuckled and softly urged. The young man, who was called Brother Chu, jumped off the wooden platform and swept his dusty long hair to the back. Immediately, a delicate and handsome face was revealed. If he cleaned up, he would definitely be a stunning and elegant young master. Hurry, or I won't tell you anymore." The few children pouted their small mouths and furrowed their brows. They shyly rummaged through their clothes and said unwillingly, "Brother Chu, why do you always take money at the most crucial time? My mother only gave me one source stone this month. I can only listen to it for one day. It's not worth it." "Yeah, my father didn't give me much source stones this month." A little girl with 2 ponytails pretended to wipe her tears and said with a pout. The other child was smart. He pestered the young man and coaxed, "Brother Chu, can you say it a little more? You're much more powerful than the king of geniuses, Su-yi, the king of geniuses." Hearing the praise, the young man was overjoyed. But looking at this scene, he was suddenly in a dilemma. He scratched the back of his head and said, "But your brother Chu really needs source stones. How can there be a free lunch in this world? How about this? I'll tell you more about half the price." When Su-yi and Situ-muyang heard this, they turned and prepared to leave. Situ-muyang sighed and said, "This little brother's story is obviously hearsay. I guess his family is also in dire straits. Otherwise, he wouldn't be performing for a living at such a young age." Su-yi's eyes also flashed with a ray of light. He said faintly, "The martial arts supremacy uses martial arts to rule the world. Without absolute strength, one can only be trampled under the feet of others. It's not rare to see such families in the Tian barbarian continent. Only by self-improvement and continuous hard work can one become a peerless expert and reach the peak of martial arts. Strength is the rule of this world. This principle also applies to the earth that I lived on." With the experience of 2 lifetimes, Su-yi was not surprised by such things. Only strength could determine the peak that one could reach. "Let's go." Su-yi sighed. Su-yi did not want to see such a scene again, because this young man called Brother Chu reminded him of himself when he was young. Not only was he transported from Earth, but he also transmigrated into the body of a good-for-nothing young man that everyone hated. In his early years, he was exiled to the savage demon forest because he took advantage of Lu Ruashi. In order to master the Origin Supreme technique and cultivate the diamond body, he suffered in a sea of fire and a mountain of knives. Throughout this journey, he relied on his own continuous struggle. Only he knew how difficult it was. "Okay, Brother Fengyan, let's find a place to stay first. We shouldn't be able to leave the city today." Situ-muyang replied softly. Just as the eyes of the young man behind Su-yi lit up, and he was about to put away the scattered 1-star primordial stones into his pocket, a heavy blow came from above his head. Boom! Rumble! A few small stones that were emitting a faint light were thrown high into the air by the strong wind and rolled all the way to Su-yi's feet. Su-yi immediately stopped in his tracks and looked surprised. "It's you again, you damn brat who doesn't want to live. It wasn't enough that I warned you the last time. This time, you actually gathered a crowd under the city walls to spread the news." Chapter 1490. Su-yi turned his head and saw a soldier in golden armor, who had just finished his duty at the city gate, slowly walking towards Achu. The gleaming saber in his hand shone with a cold light under the moonlight. The primordial chi ribbon, just now, was shot by him, knocking the primordial stones in the boy's hand to the ground. "Okay, don't cry. Go home and find your parents. Brother Achu will guard here." Several children were immediately frightened and cried loudly. The boy was quick to react and quickly protected the children behind him. The boy endured the injuries caused by the aftermath of the golden light ribbon and comforted them softly. Achu seemed to have expected this and did not panic. He squatted down and patted the shoulders of several children, indicating that they should leave. Then, Achu stood up and looked at the crowd that quickly gathered around. He covered his wounds and gasped for breath. Aunties, uncles, and grandpas present, which kind-hearted person can send Nyonyo and the others home? I thank you in advance. Situ Myong muttered to himself in a low voice. This boy has probably lived in Zhongzhou City for a long time and is very familiar with the people nearby. But how could he be in such dire straits? Sui did not say a word and looked at the boy named Achu. His eyes were full of splendor. He was in danger, but he was calm and had the demeanor of a martial artist. He should not be a person who begged for a living. As soon as the voice fell, several aunties in the crowd pulled out a few children who were still crying and told them not to cry anymore. Some people secretly slipped away and went to inform Nyonyo's parents. No one is allowed to leave today. The guard of the city lord's mansion looked on coldly and smashed the long saber in his hand on the ground. He shouted angrily to the guard captain behind him, "Sir, it's this boy who has been deceiving people all day long. It's fine if he is taught a lesson, but today is the city lord's big day. How dare he spread the news that Su Yi is a thief here?" After that, he immediately grabbed Achu and said fiercely, "I think you are tired of living, and these children, following you every day, they will all be a disaster in the future. Follow me to the Central Province prison." Immediately, the crowd's voices were like boiling water, and discussions rose and fell one after another. Su Yi and Situ Myong also frowned, and a cold light shot out from their eyes. Achu and Nyonyo didn't do it on purpose. They aren't martial artists. Sir, please let them go. Achu is also a pitiful person. How can someone from the city lord's mansion be like this? Hearing the uproar of the crowd, the guard's armor trembled, and a surge of yuan chi swept out from his body. Immediately, a tornado-like energy ripple struck the crowd. Shwa! Everyone, including the old, the young, the women, and the children, took a step back. Those who could not stand still directly fell backward. Some of the young and middle-aged people in the center were directly flipped over and fell in the small stalls behind them. They lay on the ground for a long time and could not stand up. Their cries of pain resounded through the sky. Bang! The small stalls on the side of the road were instantly smashed into fine powder by the huge force. The banners fluttered like a ship in the sea wind, and a desolate atmosphere filled the sky. Shut the F***CK up for this daddy. Who dares to say another word? Kill without mercy. The city lord has ordered that an important guest will be visiting tomorrow. If you dare to cause trouble here, you will all die. The guard captain stood in the middle of the crowd and looked fiercely at the people on the ground. It was as if he was the judge of life and death looking at the weak creatures. There was not the slightest bit of pity or sympathy. Coldness spread out like a tide. In a flash, the entire area under the Central Province city wall was silent, and the children's cries were directly covered by the adults. They did not dare to make a single sound. The guard captain's mouth curved into an arc, and his armor emitted a faint metallic light under the moonlight. He faintly waved his 2 fingers forward. Jie, a group of ants, you dare to be rude and unreasonable with me. Capture him. Take away the children from me. And whoever disobeys, execute them on the spot. Kill without mercy. Once again, the guard circulated the golden light yuan chi, and his deep voice burst out like a great bell. The surging murderous aura spread out, and the onlookers suddenly trembled. At the same time, they closed their mouths, and their bodies involuntarily trembled. As soon as his voice fell, several guards behind him walked forward with heavy steps. 2 huge palms firmly locked Achu, making him unable to move. Blood quietly flowed out from the corner of Achu's mouth, and his eyes were red. He struggled bitterly and said to the guard captain, "Bastard of the sacred mountain, don't be arrogant. After 30 years, who will be an ant?" Whoosh! Achu's words were like a heavy thunderbolt, hitting the softest corner of Su Yi's body. His body suddenly shook a little, as if he was dreaming of the sacred martial arts conference. Slap! The guard behind him heavily slapped Ah Chu's face once again. Immediately, Ah Chu's face swelled up, and it was incomparably hot. However, his face was not distorted at all, and he did not even blink. He allowed the blood to flow as he laughed wildly in the wind. When Situ Muyang saw this scene, he snorted heavily and sent a Yuan Qi transmission to Su Yi. He roared, "Brother Fengyan, what do we do? Do we save him?" The city lord's mansion also belongs to the sacred mountain. The bastards of the sacred mountain won't even let the children and the elderly off. Su Yi nodded gently, and the anger in his chest surged. He said to Situ Muyang, "I'll save him. Be careful not to expose your identity." However, just as Su Yi was about to circulate his Yuan Qi, a weak and hoarse voice faintly floated out from the crowd. "Sir, please have mercy. Listen to this old man." An old and frail old man crawled up from the ground with great difficulty and slowly walked out of the crowd. His speed was abnormally slow, and he was trembling. Ah Chu recovered from the shock just now and recognized the person. Her eyes were burning with anger, and she shouted anxiously, "Uncle Chun, don't come over. It's dangerous here." A trace of surprise flashed in the eyes of the surrounding crowd. Uncle Chun was a fellow beggar in Zhongzhou City with Ah Chu. They lived together in the mountain god temple on the outskirts of the city every day. Because Uncle Chin's legs were not very nimble, Ah Chu accompanied Uncle Chun in and out of Zhongzhou City every day. Over time, everyone had a deep impression of the old and young beggars. Every day, Ah Chu would wait for Uncle Chun at the foot of the city wall, and then they would return to the mountain god temple together. "Little Ah Chu, don't be afraid. If you are caught, no one will accompany old man Chun out of the city." Elder Chin's face was full of wrinkles, but he looked kind. His white hair was shining under the moonlight, but his eyes were full of determination. Seeing that Chu was injured, there was a flash of pain between his eyebrows, and he staggered to the guard. Chapter 1491. The leader of the guards was tall and strong. He looked down at the old man and said disdainfully, "Old man, you want to save people? Get lost." "Ha ha ha." Uncle Chin coughed a few times and waved his withered hands in the air. The crowd looked sideways. "What are you laughing at?" The guard behind him rushed out and were stopped by the leader. The leader's eyes were as cold as ice, and his eyebrows were furrowed. Uncle Chin's figure was thin, and his ribs could be seen through his ragged clothes, as if they could be blown away by a gust of wind. However, there was a calmness in his eyes, as if he was not afraid of death. This old man can't save anyone, but this old man wants to say a word of justice. The guards of the Holy Mountain won't be afraid of a word from me, right? The guard behind him suddenly shouted angrily, "Lowly beggar, it's not your turn to speak. The leader thinks highly of you and wants to talk to you. You ant, I'll give you a knife. Go to hell and talk to the king of hell." The leader waved his hand, indicating that the guards behind him should not be impulsive. A sly smile flashed across his face. He crossed his hands, raised his head slightly, and said, "Tell me." Uncle Chin was not afraid in the face of danger. After looking around, he stared straight at the city lord's guards. Taking a deep breath, he said, "Central Continent City is a vassal city of the Sacred Mountain. It is the largest city in Central Continent City. Martial artists come and go. It is a place of pilgrimage, yet there are so many poor commoners. What has the Sacred Mountain been doing all these years? Are they busy refining elixirs and practicing martial arts? You want to be a saint, but have you ever cared about our lives?" After saying this, the expression in the guard captain's eyes changed slightly. The crowd below also lowered their eyes one after another. Their eyes were filled with tears, and they could not bear to watch anymore. Uncle Chin paused, gritted his teeth, and said loudly, "I want to ask my lord, which one of the words that little Ah Chu said just now was false? If the Holy Mountain is invincible and City Lord Ouyang is really unparalleled in the world, why would he be afraid of Su Yi?" "Ha ha! The King of Heaven's pride, I think it's true." It had already been more than a year, yet no one in Central Continent City was allowed to mention his name. This meant that Su Yi had broken through many years of the sacred mountain's haze. The hypocritical face of your holy mountain should have been torn off long ago. Ha ha ha. Uncle Chun covered his mouth, the accumulated resentment gushing out like a flood. Uncle Chun laughed wantonly. So, immediately, a golden ray of light shot out from the hand of the guard behind him. It drew an arc in the air and flew straight towards Uncle Chun. The strong wind destroyed the remaining stalls and wooden carts, causing dust to fly all over the sky. In the blink of an eye, the same light blue water attribute Yuan Qi blossomed from the powder. Like a giant whale sucking in water, it deflected the golden light into the air. Bang! The two heavy blows collided high up in the air, and an ear-piercing sonic boom resounded through the sky. The Imperial bodyguard captain was shocked. Metal element Yuan Qi rose from the soles of his feet. He looked around and quickly searched through the crowd. He shouted, "Who is it? Get the hell out here!" Uncle Chun. Ah Chu's eyes were about to split open. Her eyes were as red as blood. With a roar, she indicated for Uncle Chun to stop talking and quickly leave this place. Bang! The void rumbled and the city walls trembled. A wave of energy fell down after the heavy blow, once again striking the crowd. In the time it took for a spark to fly off a piece of flint, Uncle Chun used all of his strength to run towards the Imperial bodyguard captain. He was prepared to fight to the death with the Imperial bodyguard captain and buy time for Ah Chu to escape. "Ah Chu, run. I'll hold him back." The Imperial bodyguard captain, who had been interrupted by the sudden attack, sneered as he saw Uncle Chun running towards him. Courting death. Bang! A tyrannical and destructive saber light slashed out from the tip of the saber, solidly striking Uncle Chen's chest like a golden dragon. Its speed and strength were even more ferocious than before. Situ Muyang and Su Yi, who were far away from the crowd, were caught off guard. The two of them angrily shouted in their hearts. Not good. Suddenly, a thin figure drew a bloody red line in the night sky of Zhongzhou City. Blood mist filled the air. After a heavy sound, Uncle Chun collapsed on the ground and could no longer move. Uncle Chun. When Ah Chu saw that Uncle Chun had been killed, her hair stood on end. The injury that had just been shaken by the aftershock burst open again. Dark red blood gushed out like a blood god, making people's hearts tremble. Unable to care so much, Uncle Chun activated the Origin Supreme technique and flicked away the Imperial bodyguard, who was holding Ah Chu tightly. In an instant, Ah Chu seemed to erupt with an amazing force. Like a volcanic eruption, she rushed to the place where Uncle Chun had fallen. Painful groans came from the entire city wall. The Imperial bodyguard who was hit felt as if his elbow had been dislocated. His joints were shattered into powder. He covered his shoulder and cried out in pain. "There's a powerhouse. Prepare to defend. No one is allowed to leave." The Imperial bodyguard captain recovered from the shock and no longer panicked. Metal Yuan Qi surged out, and his figure suddenly retreated. He stood side by side with the Imperial bodyguard captain and used his soul to search in the direction of the powerhouse. He had no time to pay attention to Ah Chu. Uncle Chun, wake up." Ah Chu crawled to Uncle Chen's side and looked at the sunken wound on Uncle Chen's chest. His flesh was badly mangled, and his skin and meridians were all broken. Big teardrops kept dripping down. Her tears were crystal clear and hit the stone floor, instantly wetting it. At this time, the surrounding audience made way for Ah Chu and Uncle Chun. Without the permission of the Imperial bodyguard captain, no one dared to leave without permission. The adults behind quickly protected Nyonyo and the other children behind them and covered their eyes. They couldn't bear to see such a scene. "Who has healing medicine? Who has healing medicine? Please, give me a bottle. Give me a bottle." Ah Chu's blood-stained palms kept knocking on the ground. She looked at the panicked onlookers and begged them to help her save Uncle Chun. However, there was only panic and fear in the eyes of the onlookers. They didn't dare to speak or move. They were afraid that if they moved, they would die. We don't have healing medicine." Nyonyo and the other children were scared and said in a trembling voice. Then they bit their lips and stopped talking. Most of the onlookers here were poor people. Even if they had healing medicine, they didn't dare to give it to the Imperial bodyguard captain in front of them. Uncle Chun shook his head slightly, indicating that Chu shouldn't waste her energy. He tried to get up with his last breath. Chu gently supported Uncle Chun. Her voice was trembling and snot was flying. Uncle Chun, don't move. I can save you. You asked me to borrow medicine. We will leave the city soon. Just go back. Just go back. Chapter 1492. Chu's tears had blurred his vision. He was covered in blood, but he didn't have time to wipe it off. He could only look at Uncle Chun in confusion. His palm kept trembling as he touched the wound. He was afraid that Uncle Chun would feel pain, so he left. A trace of blood and tears seeped out of Uncle Chen's dim eyes. It could be seen that he was extremely weak. He gently patted little Chu's head with his old hands. His lips were slightly open, as if he had something to say to Chu. Chu was afraid that he couldn't hear clearly, so he immediately bent down and pressed his mouth against Uncle Chen's mouth to listen carefully. He cried, "Uncle Chun, what did you say?" "Little Chu, save your sister, and live well. Today, Uncle Chun won't go back to the mountain god temple with you." As soon as he finished speaking, his hands that were suspended in the air suddenly lost their strength. With a bang, he fell down and heavily landed on the stone floor. He no longer spoke. The light in Uncle Chen's eyes immediately became dim and lifeless. His head gently turned to the side, no longer showing any signs of life. Uncle Chun, Uncle Chun. At that time, Chu was already sobbing. His voice had become very hoarse because of the roar. He kept shaking his head and shouting. His fists smashed hard on the soaked stone slab. His knuckles were bloody because of the smash, which was a shocking sight. Nyo and the onlookers watched Uncle Chun leave. They also covered their mouths and cried. Everyone tried their best not to make a sound and let their tears flow. The haze of the holy mountain had shrouded their hearts for too long. Then, Chu's trembling hands gently wiped Uncle Chen's face. After taking them away, Uncle Chun had closed his eyes. He was very peaceful, as if he had fallen asleep. Su Yi and Sitamuyang on the side were also full of resentment when they saw this scene, but it was useless. Su Yi shouted in a low voice, "Take him and leave this place." If they didn't leave now, they would be in big trouble. Chu and all the people here would lose their lives because of the riot. Soon after, the battle intent in Su Yi and Sitamuyang's hearts that could no longer be suppressed completely erupted and boiled at the same time. Their blood poured into their minds like a long dragon and soared into the sky. Su Yi's palm drew an arc from the inside out as the Origin Supreme art circulated rapidly. In an instant, an incomparably vast and ancient power surrounded everyone, and a violent aura erupted in an instant. Not good. The guard captain's pupils suddenly shrank, and he hurriedly circulated his metal yuan qi to resist, trying to open a gap in the yuan qi halo. In an instant, within the circle of light, countless explosions resounded throughout the universe. The shockwaves were like meteorites crashing into each other, pushing the onlookers towards the guard captain like waves. "There's an expert. Go get the guards at the east gate." The Imperial Guard captain shouted loudly. The Imperial Guard behind him waved his golden saber repeatedly. Then a spatial barrier quickly spread out in the air. The Imperial Guard who was standing outside the barrier hurriedly mounted his barbarian demon beast and went straight to the eastern gate. "You want to leave? Die." Su Yi roared angrily in his heart. Taking advantage of the crowd's rush, he directly circulated his fire yuan qi and directly flipped in the air. Like a flying butterfly dancing in fire, Su Yi left behind after images in the air. Fiery sky gathering palm. Su Yi stood in the air with monstrous power. The palm prints that filled the sky were like a sea of fire. The dense fiery palm prints poured down heavily and directly smashed onto the guards at the city gate. The East Gate Imperial Guard, who was running away, was startled. He turned around and trembled with fear in his eyes. A scarlet-red wave directly bombarded the Imperial Guard's body. An incomparably violent energy directly exploded, and the violent impact blasted the Imperial Guard far away. He crawled up, a mist of blood spilled, and trembled as he ran forward. Within the circle of light, an unparalleled palm print directly smashed down. The small circle surrounded by the primordial supreme art directly trapped the Imperial Guard captain and the others inside. Space was distorted, and under such a tremendous force, the surrounding space was crushed. Holy light blade array! In front of everyone's eyes, the guard captain shouted. Suddenly, a bright light shot out. The blade light rotated, and together with the several guards behind him, it interweaved into a golden light blade array. With the momentum of thunder, it collided with Su Yi's palm prints in the air. From the outside, the entire northern city wall of Zhongzhou City did not make any sound. However, the people inside could see that the small foot of the city wall was like a landslide at this moment. Cracks suddenly appeared on the ground, and gravel and dust covered the sky. Bang, bang, bang. The continuous explosive attacks directly made the space like a lake that was thrown into a bomb. The sound of space shattering rapidly spread. Under the uproar of the eyes, the side of the sacred mountain suffered heavy losses. Except for the guard captain, all the other guards vomited blood. They staggered, and their armor was broken. They directly fell to the ground and cried out in pain. "Ah, my chest! Wah, my hand!" Several guards lying on the ground cried out in pain. Their faces were full of pain. The swift and violent palm technique burned rapidly into metal armor with high-temperature flames. The dull golden armor suddenly became a sealed space. The guards took off their armor one by one, and they were battered and exhausted. "This can't go on," Su Yi muttered to himself. Looking at the guards who had just escaped, he thought that if this continued, it would be easy to expose the target. At the same time, it would also affect Nyonyo and the others. In a moment of desperation, Su Yi was worried that the young man called Achu would do something stupid. "Muyang, go and watch that kid." "Okay." Situ Muyang roared. From the soles of his feet, the wind attribute Yuan Qi rose. At the same time, the Imperial Wind battle armor swelled. The ancient white armor was like a feather covering Situ Muyang tightly. In front of countless eyes in the void, an elegant young man shrouded in clouds, with a fierce momentum like a dragon, blew a whirlwind. In an instant, the genuine Qi in the entire origin space began to tremble. The strong wind was suppressed, and it directly made a whimpering sound. It streaked across the sky and passed through the crowd like a white divine bird. With a leap, it flashed in the air and came to Achu's side. Achu's eyes were lifeless. He stared at Uncle Chin's body in a daze. Sitamuyang didn't respond to him, no matter how he called out. Even if the body can bear the bleeding, the mind will be greatly damaged. The blood in his body was still flowing. Sitamuyang was burning with anxiety. He searched in his arms and took out a bottle. There were still a few drops of spiritual liquid left by Su Yi in it. Sitamuyang didn't care so much and poured it into Achu's mouth. Immediately, Achu's blood stopped flowing. The wound was healing at a speed visible to the naked eye, and it was faintly flickering with white light. After a few breaths, Achu's eyes became clear again. However, in the blink of an eye, his eyes shot out a ray of light. His whole body was as hot as a baked cobblestone. His body was steaming, and one could feel the tide of killing intent. Chapter 1493. Achu crawled on the ground in pain as she curled into a ball. She trembled on the ground with her eyes tightly shut. Damn, what's going on? Achu's cultivation level is too low. She can't refine these few drops of spiritual liquid. Sitamuyang's mind immediately exploded. Seeing Achu in such pain, large beads of sweat dripped down. Sitamuyang immediately bent down and injected Yuan Qi into Achu's body to help her refine. Phew! Wind attribute Yuan Qi slowly flowed from Sitamuyang's hand into Achu's body. The fiery temperature gradually dropped, but her face was still in pain. Her body felt like it was being pricked by thousands of needles. Her mind was also greatly suppressed. Who are you? How dare you act so presumptuously in Zhongzhou City? You are courting death. The guard captain finally saw Sita Muyang's appearance clearly. He bellowed and instantly raised his golden-hilted saber. He tore through the air like a golden bird, bringing with him a fierce wind that caused space to fluctuate. He ruthlessly slashed at Situ Muyang once again. Bang! In the blink of an eye, Su Yi hurriedly activated the Origin Supreme technique. The Yuan Qi of the Great Void, in his body, circulated rapidly in his wide meridians. The first hidden latch opened with a loud bang, and the aura around him surged once again. Take care of yourself first, you scum of the sacred mountain. I want to see who is the ant. 13 Swords of Gale. He pushed both of his palms in the air, and suddenly his palms turned into blades. The monstrous solid sword shadow cut out countless ripples in the air, and 13 sword shadows floated out from all directions. The entire space instantly exploded, and the sword light that was mixed with the fire attribute instantly pierced through the Imperial bodyguard captain's golden armor. In order to avoid being exposed, He tried his best not to use the moves he had used at the Sacred Martial Assembly. At this moment, he was using the Heavenly Fey ancient scripture and a sword technique he had obtained by chance. He naturally had no qualms using it. As the sword lights intersected, the ground within the circle of light suddenly cracked open, revealing a huge fissure that was tens of meters wide. The fissure spread directly towards the guard captain's palm. The onlookers who had been scared silly by Su Yi's ferocious attack had already hidden themselves at the edge of the circle of light, trembling as they watched the guard captain's armor fall off like snowflakes. The heavy armor kept smashing onto the ground, making clanging sounds. Every heavy blow directly hit the hearts of the onlookers, causing them to tremble along with it. In the sky, Su Yi's figure was no longer graceful. In an instant, a figure slowly landed on the ground. Coldness filled the air, looking down at the world like a god. His armor was scattered, and he was only wearing his undergarments. His muscles were bulging as he watched the incomparably arrogant, burly man slowly descend. His heart had already been extinguished, and his legs were slightly trembling. "Who are you?" The guard captain tried his best to remain calm. He didn't believe that as the city lord's guard, a member of the Sacred Mountains Guard, there was someone who could kill him in Central State City. "Who I am is not important. I only know that you are trash that shouldn't live in this world. You are not even worthy of being an ant." Su Yi slowly took off his hat, revealing his stubborn face. Gradually, Su Yi's lips curved into a cruel smile, and his eyes flashed with a ruthless light. "You dare to kill me? Reinforcements will arrive soon. If you want to kill me in Central State City, you must be tired of living." The guard captain clenched his fists, cold sweat dripping down his back. He tried his best to keep his eyes steady as he stared at Su Yi and said in a deep voice, "You can try. I'm sorry, but the one I want to kill is a dog of the Sacred Mountain. Bullying the weak, kill without mercy." As soon as his voice fell, the guard captain's pupils shrank. In his eyes, the tall and mighty Su Yi gradually became small and insignificant, flying towards him like a flame. The fist seal suddenly moved, and an incomparably dazzling light burst out from it. The fist seal in his hand suddenly exploded, and Su Yi's figure turned into a blurry red dot of light, sweeping towards the guard captain like lightning. Overlord Fist. Now, the Overlord Fist used by Su Yi contained a majestic and terrifying violent energy. It was like a divine tiger coming out of the mountains, bringing with it an incomparably impressive heavenly might as it smashed into the chest of the guard captain. Boom! The entire space instantly shook, and the sky froze. The guard captain's eyes seemed to be about to pop out of their sockets. Looking down, his entire chest had turned into a black hole, and through it, he could see Situ Muyang and Ah Chu, who was groaning in pain. The guard captain's tall body immediately leaned back. Pong! A loud sound was heard. Before his head could react, he fell to the ground with a loud crash dead. As soon as his body fell to the ground, his entire body was like a clay sculpture, falling apart into pieces. The huge impact produced an incomparably terrifying energy, and the surrounding onlookers were all shocked. So strong. Is he a peerless expert? The onlookers were dumbfounded, and for a moment, they forgot about their fear, only endless astonishment. To kill the guards of the city wall in Zhongzhou City, not only did this require heaven-defying strength, but also extraordinary courage and insight. Wah! Su Yi did not stop and casually took out a saber-type Dao artifact from the space bag. As he grasped the saber, an invisible pressure suddenly condensed, and the space trembled slightly. The guard on the ground looked at Su Yi walking towards them. Bluish-white liquid flowed out from their armor, and it was incomparably stinky. Their faces were filled with fear, and their blood-red eyes were like beasts wagging their tails, looking at Su Yi. "Don't kill me. We are all following orders. I beg you, don't kill us. Hero, let me go. I know you hate the sacred mountain. Let me go, and I will immediately quit being a disciple of the sacred mountain." On the other side, a guard immediately took off his remaining armor and respectfully placed it on the ground. Then, he continuously kowtowed, dripping with blood, hoping that Su Yi would let him go. The onlookers were all dumbfounded. The guards of the sacred mountain, who were usually swaggering and arrogant, were actually kowtowing to an unknown expert for mercy. Su Yi slightly raised his eyes, and the saber in his hand was raised high. The coldness in his eyes was like the light of hell, and looking at the ugliness of the sacred mountain, his eyes were full of disdain. "Betraying the sect, bullying the common people, you are worse than pigs and dogs. Go to hell and atone for your sins." Mad Dragon's 3 blades, furious dragon slash. Su Yi had not used his early martial skills for a long time, but now he used it even more fiercely. Under the activation of the Origin Supreme technique, the saber hilt was like a spiraling fire dragon. The blade of the Dao artifact was filled with blood-red dragon patterns, and a sacred and incomparable energy of heaven and earth covered the sky. From the tip of the saber, a ferocious killing intent erupted. Roar! The fire dragon galloped, and the dragon's roar shook the sky. The Imperial bodyguards watched in horror as the golden-red fire descended from the heavens above their heads. Chapter 1494. Don't. Before he could finish his sentence, an incomparably cold blade radiance cut through the flames, splitting every single guard into 2 halves from head to toe. Instantly, they were turned into mud and laid on the bluestone floor. In an instant, boundless yuan qi burst out from his body. It was incomparably fierce. The onlookers in the distance felt the fluctuation. Among them, the young men with stronger cultivation opened their arms and used their yuan qi to protect the old people and children behind them. It was like a tornado sweeping through the world. The air suddenly trembled and the void roared. Over there, behind him, another group of golden guards rushed over from the east gate. Seeing the surging qi under the north gate, they immediately quickened their pace. The reinforcements of the sacred mountain had arrived. "Let's go. Don't stay. Take Chu with us." Su Yi raised his eyebrows. In Zhongzhou City, he didn't look for trouble, but trouble came to him. Zhongzhou City was really incompatible with him. At this time, Chu was still groaning in pain. His hands were slightly bent, and he kept holding his head. Although there were only a few drops of the spiritual liquid, it contained a great amount of energy that was enough to make this young man, with low cultivation, explode at any time. The quality of this boy's soul is incredible. Is he using his soul to suppress the pain in his body? It's not easy for him to hold on until now with his weak cultivation. "Forget it. Let's go first." "Hang in there, boy." Sita Muyong was shocked. He quickly turned around and carried Chu on his shoulder. He used his primordial qi to come to Su Yi's side and said anxiously, "The dogs of the sacred mountain are here. Which way should we go?" Su-yi pondered for a moment and frowned. He directly said to Situ-Muyang, "We can't stay in the city. Let's go out first." This boy said he has a sister. Send him back to the mountain god temple first. Okay, but which way should we go to the mountain god temple? Situ-Muyang was in a dilemma. He was not familiar with Zhongzhou City. As soon as he finished speaking, Nyonyo stood out timidly and pointed to the northwest outside the city. "Brother Hero, I know where it is. The mountain god temple is 300 miles north of the city. The mountain god temple, there is Brother Chu's home." "That's right, Hero. The mountain god temple is right there. Hurry up and leave. We'll clean this place up." Several uncles and aunties also said in unison. Facing the sacred mountain, they were united against a common enemy. Finally, there was someone to vent their daily grievances on for them. After that, Su-yi raised the Tao tool in his hand. Then a bright light shot out from his eyes. Then a flame burst out from his eyes. Then the saber light rushed towards the city with a majestic aura. Bang! A shop in the distance was ablaze. Su-yi nodded slightly and said immediately, "Thank you, young lady. Please go home first. I thank you here." Before he finished speaking, Su-yi used the Fiao's 100 changing steps, and Situ-Muyang headed straight for the mountain god temple outside the city. They left behind an afterimage in the air and tore through space like lightning, disappearing in an instant. "Big Brother is so handsome. Could he be the king of heaven's chosen?" Su-yi, Nyo and the two children stared at the departing figure in a daze. It seems like another exceptional hero has appeared in Central State City. The sacred mountain won't live for long. We're saved. The onlookers were also stunned. Thinking of this, their eyes were filled with tears. After they finished speaking, they quickly brought Nyo and the others away from the scene. The reinforcements of the holy mountain riding on the ferocious gale blood wolves immediately arrived, but other than the scattered crowd and the ruins of the walls, there was no trace of Su-yi. When they looked again, the bloody aura on the ground directly dyed everyone's eyes. The East Gate's guards couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air, because the scene in front of them was just too bloody. The North Gate's guard captain was torn apart. His hands and feet were scattered everywhere. His blood was like a river pouring onto the ground. The other guards' armors were scattered. They were cut open from head to toe. Their organs and intestines were all over the ground. Their blood was like a river that soaked into the ground. After being weathered, the ground was already covered in a deep red color. "Where is he?" Before the person arrived, the voice had already arrived. A guard captain wearing golden armor rushed over from the distance. Bang! The East Gate's guard captain's face was gloomy. Looking at the miserable scene on the ground, his heart couldn't help but thump. The long spear in his hand directly stabbed into the ground. Who is so bold to dare to kill in Zhongzhou City? What kind of blood feud is this? Who dares to kill so viciously? Could it be that that person is back? Suddenly, the East Gate's guard captain's back was covered in cold sweat. His brows were tightly knitted. He raised his huge palm and rubbed his chin. He stared at the bloody corpse and fell into deep thought. At the same time, the soldier who was searching for the corpse approached and reported to the East Gate's guard captain. "Sir, according to the description of the people present, the murderer is a middle-aged man and a young man. The middle-aged man has a full beard. The young man is tall and has an elegant temperament. It should be very easy to recognize him." After hearing this, the East Gate's guard captain was even more puzzled. On the day of the Sacred Martial Assembly, the East Gate's guard captain was also among them. He was responsible for protecting the city. He still remembered the appearance of Su-yi. However, it was a thin young man of 16 or 17 years old. Obviously, he didn't match the description. And from the looks of the wounds, it doesn't look like the moves that the thief used. So fierce, at least above the primitive emperor realm. "Put out the fire. It's on fire." In the distant city, people's heads were shaking. Screams resounded through the world. The sky was filled with black smoke. Looking at a shop in the city that was on fire, the scorching temperature swallowing the heaven and earth. When it rains, it pours. The dense temperature made the East Gate's guard captain even angrier. He casually grabbed an old woman and said, "Tell me, which direction did those two thieves run to?" The East Gate Imperial bodyguard captain's voice was as loud as a bell as he roared in anger. "Reporting to my lord, that thief ran into the city." An old woman trembled as she replied with a face full of shock. "Were they? Search for them." The East Gate's guard captain was also tall and sturdy. His eyes were full of killing intent. The biting cold blade surged along with his aura. "You killed the people of the Sacred Mountain. I will cut you into pieces. Search the entire city. Catch them and put them to death by dismemberment." The guard standing at the side anxiously bowed and reported in a low voice, "Sir, sir, tomorrow is the arrival of a big shot in the city. The city lord has ordered that there must be no mistakes. Are you sure you want to search the entire city tonight?" Slap, a loud slap, accompanied by a metallic light, landed on the face of the guard who was reporting. The guard was immediately thrown into the air. He spun a dozen times in the air before coming to a stop and fainted on the ground. There was no sound from him anymore. "Go and put out the fire first. Continue the search. I will report to the city lord. Remember, don't make a fuss. Go from house to house and do a carpet search." The guard captain snorted heavily. After giving the order, he rode on the Zephyr Bloodwolf. The steel whip-like huge tail swept continuously and directly drew a ravine on the ground. His figure was like the wind and thunder as he rushed straight to the city lord's residence. Chapter 1495. Seeing the East Gate guards gradually disappear, the old woman hiding on the side suddenly relaxed. She took a deep breath, and a small figure jumped out from behind her. It was Nyo. "Grandma, will Brother Hero really not be caught by the bad guys of the Sacred Mountain?" Nyo's childish voice was filled with tears. Her jade-like little fingers were constantly moving in circles. She was very nervous. The old granny held Nyo's little hand and said, "Nyo, be good. With Brother Hero here, Central State City has hope. Don't be afraid. Let's go. We're going home." Nyo heard this and smiled. It was like a spring flower blooming, warming people's hearts. Outside Central State City, northern suburbs, the night was very quiet and there were no figures. The moonlight was like a hazy mist woven from water vapor, softly enveloping the distant mountain range. In a nearby forest, there were many low-level savage beasts patrolling back and forth. Their red eyes emitted a deep light in the night. The beautiful trees were verdant and luxuriant. The ancient trees were like dragons, covering the sky and the moon. "Rustle, rustle." Su-Yi and Situ-Muyang brought Ah-Chu and flew up the city wall like monkeys. They turned into streams of light and rushed towards Ah-Chu's mountain god temple. Su-Yi's primordial origin supreme technique and Fuyao's 100 transformative steps were fully activated. He passed through a lush and verdant mountain call and saw a deserted and dilapidated temple from afar. Candles were lit inside, and it was rather desolate. The two of them pondered for a moment. Under the illumination of the moonlight, they flashed into the mountain god temple. After entering the temple, Su-Yi frowned. He didn't think that there would be such a place near Central State City. He saw that there was a thick layer of spider webs inside the temple. It seemed like no one had come here for a long time. The roof was broken, and the roof tiles are leaking out everywhere. The deity statue in the broken temple had been cut in half, and the collapsed beams were lying on one side. The entire temple gave off a desolate feeling. "Ah-Chu and Uncle Chen live here?" Su-Yi muttered to himself. He didn't expect their living environment to be much worse than he had imagined. The two of them were beggars for a living. They did not have clothes to wear and food to fill their stomachs. They did not have any source of income and only had a low martial cultivation. If they encountered bad weather, it was really hard to imagine how they would survive. Maybe Uncle Chen's passing is a kind of luck. This is not a place for people to live. Situ-Myong sighed softly and then gently put Ah-Chu down. Lying on the soft ground, Ah-Chu's face was twisted, and there was still a painful expression between his brows. He kept rolling on the ground and moaning, curling up into a ball like a prawn. He was very sad. Situm Wuyong scratched his head and said awkwardly, "Martial granduncle, his injuries are too serious. I'm afraid that ordinary spiritual medicines won't be able to heal him." So I hurriedly poured the rest of my spiritual liquid into his body. "I didn't expect, Sai." He sighed softly. "It's not your fault. This boy is chivalrous. It's a pity that his cultivation is too low. Otherwise, he wouldn't be so uncomfortable." As soon as his voice fell, He smiled helplessly in his heart. If Ling Qianxue was not refining the blood essence, he would definitely take the opportunity to teach him a lesson. Didn't he always try to be brave? Speaking of which, this boy's temper was a bit similar to his. Looking at Ah Chu, whose eyes were closed and face pale, He raised his eyebrows. He thought that a few drops of spiritual liquid would not make a person with a low cultivation feel so uncomfortable. He turned to Sita Muyang and said, "Let me see. Muyang, go outside and guard. The diversion tactic just now won't last long. If the guards of the Holy Mountain move, immediately send a message to me." Immediately, he bent down and secretly activated the Origin Supreme technique. A monstrous aura was released in an instant, and a violent aura swept out like a wave. He took a deep breath, and a series of mysterious and complicated handprints condensed in his hands. Suddenly, his entire palm was wrapped in a dense, milky, white divine light. Under the guidance of the unparalleled primordial chi of the great void divine sea in his body gently gathered on his palm and crazily poured into Achu's meridians. As soon as the Origin Supreme technique touched Achu's body, it rushed into Achu's body like a dragon swimming in the sea. It crazily absorbed the energy of Achu's spiritual liquid and turned it into primordial chi, which flowed into Achu's meridians in an orderly manner. In an instant, the dazzling light was hazy, densely covering the entire mountain god temple. Achu's body was wrapped in the divine light, which was blazing. The primordial chi in her body circulated, and the bursting sound of her skin was gradually replaced by bursts of roaring, like wind and thunder. After a few breaths, through the exploration of the mind, Yi could feel that the primordial chi in Achu's body had changed from extremely chaotic to orderly. Every meridian was unobstructed, but strangely, Achu did not wake up. At first, Yi thought that Achu's painful coma was because her cultivation was low and she could not bear the huge energy of the spiritual liquid. Therefore, after noticing that Achu's meridians were in an extremely chaotic state, he used the Origin Supreme technique to refine the spiritual liquid so that the violent spiritual liquid energy could flow smoothly in her meridians. After a while, Achu was still unconscious. Yi knew that it was not so simple, so he once again used a part of the primordial chi of the Origin Supreme technique to verify it. "Hey, what is this?" After the primordial chi flowed in Achu's meridians, it made a trembling sound like flowing water, but in the end, it could not directly enter the Dantian Chi Sea. If an outsider was present, they would definitely be stunned. After Yi's vigorous vital energy circulated through Achu's large and small circulatory cycle, it directly surged out from the pores of his limbs and bones. In an instant, Achu's body was boiling, and the primordial chi light that floated out was like a small rain of light erupting. The entire mountain god temple became bright. This discovery shocked Yi. This meant that Achu was a person who was unable to condense primordial chi and would never be able to cultivate martial arts. This was a huge blow to the people living in the Tianyin continent, where martial arts were respected and martial arts were prosperous. After confirming the cause of the illness, Yi was depressed. Achu's meridians were narrow, so he could not bear the huge power of the Origin Supreme technique. The more chi surged around Achu, the more it showed how much primordial chi he had lost. Alas, this boy's meridians are congenitally narrow. It's a pity that he has such a good body. Thinking of this boy's experience was too similar to his. Yi was also considered a waste because he could not condense primordial chi when he was young. Later, even if he cultivated primordial qi, he stopped at the stage of refining essence into qi. After going around in circles, he found that all the cause and effect was because of the mysterious brick-like light ball in his mind. It could be said that his success and failure were due to the Origin Supreme technique. Please remember the domain name of this book, .com. Wonderful book mobile version website, .com. Chapter 1496. Because of the mysterious ball of light, he couldn't become a real martial artist. However, because of the mysterious ball of light, he started a whole new martial artist career. Through 3 years of hard cultivation and 49 days of tempering in the earth's core fire, he became the famous king of Heaven's Pride. Achu's innate talent for martial arts cultivation is poor, but the quality of her soul is good. Maybe it's in the heaven grade. Su-yi muttered to himself. After a few breaths, Su-yi's cold spirit spread out toward Achu. He could feel that Achu didn't wake up because of the spiritual liquid's rebellion. After the Origin Supreme technique refined the spiritual liquid's energy, although the spiritual liquid in her body was no longer rebellious, most of the vitality could not be transmitted to her dantian because of the narrowness of her meridians. Instead, it evaporated from the pores of her limbs. The other small part directly attacked her tender soul, cleansing her divine soul and cleansing her bones. Therefore, Achu was relying on her powerful soul control to endure the energy that could explode at any time. Now, she was relying on her unparalleled willpower to suppress the turbulence in her soul. Without the interference of the Origin Supreme technique, Achu's soul was in a state of self-recovery. She closed her eyes tightly and frowned. Su-yi gradually withdrew his vitality and his handprint. He thought to himself, "Compared to you, I'm lucky. At least I can change my life through the Origin Supreme technique, cultivate martial arts, and become a martial artist. What is this mysterious ball of light? Does it have something to do with my transmigration from Earth? Could it be related to my parents in the Tianan continent?" Su-yi muttered to himself, a bright light shooting out from his eyes, his mind turning at lightning speed. If you can survive this, you'll definitely become a powerhouse in terms of soul cultivation. Who knows, maybe there'll be another heaven-ranked soul controller in this world. Su-yi's helpless eyes revealed a trace of anticipation. After that, Su-yi looked at the moonlight outside the window and muttered to himself, "Isn't her sister here? The guards of the Holy Mountain will arrive at any time. You'd better regulate your breathing and leave as soon as Chu recovers." After making up his mind, Su-yi walked to a nearby beam and sat down cross-legged. He began to concentrate his mind and qi. He activated the supreme art of origin in his heart and circulated it through the big and small circulatory cycle until he reached 72 cycles. The primordial chaos supreme technique, the Heaven Fei ancient sutra, and the heaven riding art were the fundamental martial techniques that Su-yi relied on the most. As long as he had the time, Su-yi would begin studying them without slacking. Woo! Su-yi gradually put away his distracting thoughts, and his mind gradually sank into a meditative state like an old monk, leaving only a trace of his mind to spy on Achu's changes. A faint light filled his body, and the candlelight in the mountain god temple flickered. There was a faint sound of an ancient dragon's roar. After a long while, the night was as cold as water, and the clouds were floating. The surroundings of the mountain god temple were terrifyingly quiet. Situmuyang was constantly pacing back and forth outside the temple, his mind covering a radius of several hundred feet, afraid that something would happen. At this moment, Su-yi was deep in thought inside the mountain god temple. Behind him, a pair of dark and shining eyes were spying on Su-yi and Chu. From the dim light, one could see that the pair of almond eyes were watery. They blinked and looked very nervous. Swoosh! As if he had made a great decision, the candlelight flickered and suddenly extinguished. A beam of yuan-chi light appeared and headed straight for the back of Su-yi's head. Coincidentally, Su-yi exhaled a stream of turbid yuan-chi from his mouth. His mind suddenly trembled, and his eyes regained their clarity. He felt the sound of something breaking through the air behind him. A beam of light suddenly shot out, and the chi around him surged in all directions like a wave. Bang! Ah! A beautiful figure was struck by the huge force and was sent flying into the wall. He immediately got up and activated his fire attribute Yuan Qi. Taking a step forward, he appeared in front of the beautiful figure in a single leap. He stood with his hands behind his back and looked coldly at the person who had sneaked an attack on him. He could not help but be a little stunned. A delicate figure slowly stood up from the ground. The person who had just attacked him was a graceful and moving woman. She was about 15 or 16 years old. Her black hair was like a waterfall, and she was very beautiful. She had bright eyes and white teeth, but her face was a little pale. Her footsteps were weak, and she staggered because of the heavy blow. When the weak woman saw Su Yi's tall and strong figure, she was startled, and fear emerged in her eyes. She was at a loss, and her body kept shrinking back. She leaned against the corner of the wall and held a wooden stick in her hand. She said to Su Yi in a trembling voice, "You don't come over." Su Yi's eyes were still cold and resolute. He approached the woman step by step without saying a word. The woman's footsteps were weak, and her eyes were unfocused. He could clearly feel that the woman had the same problem as Ah Chu. Her meridians were narrow, which led to weakness. But how could this woman hide her aura so well? I did not notice it at all, and her speed is not weak either. Su Yi's eyes moved slightly as he was surprised. Not only did he not notice it, but even Sita Muyang, who was outside the door, did not notice it either. It could only mean that this woman had been hiding in the temple all along. He was now at the second level of the Origin Emperor realm, and his senses were very sensitive. He could immediately feel any movement within 100 feet. However, he only noticed it when the woman was in front of him. The strangest thing was that the woman's cultivation was only at the Foundation Establishment realm, which was very weak. Their eyes met. After Su Yi changed his appearance, his bulging muscles were faintly glowing with a dark luster. His eyes were extremely clear as he looked at the woman's beautiful almond-shaped eyes. Her eyelashes were flowing and sparkling. The mysterious woman's soft eyes were like silk. Her thin and frail body seemed to be boneless, and her snow-white hands were constantly trembling. Su Yi's heart suddenly thumped. Her eyes were too similar to his little sister, Su Wan. He could not help but blurt out, "Wan." Seeing Su Yi approaching her step by step, the woman's body trembled, and she suddenly retreated. She was stunned when she heard Su Yi's murmur just now. After seeing her face clearly, Su Yi immediately shook his head and smiled bitterly. It was just that the eyes were very similar. His expression became calm and peaceful, and he no longer had a stern face. He said softly, "Don't be afraid. I am here to send Ah Chu back. He is injured. Are you his sister? I heard him mention it before." Su Yi had already noticed when he just sent Ah Chu back. Ah Chu kept groaning in pain. "Sister, medicine." It seemed that the weak woman in front of him was undoubtedly Ah Chu's sister. The woman looked at Ah Chu, who was unconscious on the ground, and quickly ran to Ah Chu's side. She placed her hand on Ah Chu's forehead and stroked back and forth. She was greatly moved and said, "Who are you? What happened to Ah Chu?" Su Yi briefly repeated the process and comforted her softly. "Ah Chu is refining the spiritual medicine I gave him. His soul quality is very high. After he survives, he might be able to enter the Imperial Palace and become an official soul controller." Chapter 1497. At the mention of Yuqian Palace and Soul Reapers, the woman immediately turned around and knelt on the ground with tears in her eyes. She lowered her eyes and said, "Benefactor, are you from Yuqian Palace? If you can take Ah Chu to Yuqian Palace, I will be deeply grateful and be your slave." The woman had dark eyebrows and snow-white skin. She was very thin and wore a simple white dress, but it was very clean and simple. If she dressed up a little, she would be a delicate beauty. She must have been a lady from a noble family before. Hearing Su Yi mention Yuqian Palace, She thought Su Yi was from there. Su Yi's eyes flashed with a trace of doubt. Then his eyes suddenly became clear. He softly helped the woman up and said, "Get up first. What is your name?" "Sir, I am Li Shiran. The one lying here is my brother Li Chongchu. We are all from Hundred Grass Mountain near Holy Mountain. Li clan of Hundred Grass Mountain." Situ Muyong's voice faintly came in. It turned out that Situ Muyong heard the movement inside and had been waiting behind the door for a long time. At this time, when he heard the 3 words Hundred Grass Mountain, his bright and deep eyes lit up. He immediately walked into the mountain god temple like the wind and blurted out, "Muyong, you know about Hundred Grass Mountain?" Su Yi raised his eyes and looked at Situ Muyong. Situ Muyong glanced at Li Shiran and gently nodded. He raised his hand and touched his chin. The corner of his eyes turned up as he recalled, "I once heard my father say that there's a mountain range near Holy Mountain called Hundred Grass Mountain. It seems that many of Holy Mountain's resources are taken from there. There's a Holy Mountain Academy there, and even the ordinary disciple assessment is held there. It seems that this Hundred Grass Mountain is also a holy mountain." Su Yi's eyes suddenly lit up. When she heard Situ Muyong say this, the woman raised her white sleeves and was about to cry. Her delicate brows were tightly knitted. She must have mentioned the sad matter of her family. Situ Muyong scratched his head, glanced at Su Yi wearily, and continued. "However, it is said that in the earliest days, a tribe called the Li clan lived in the Hundred Her Mountain. For some unknown reason, every member of the Li clan had innately narrow meridians and were unable to gather yuan qi. Fortunately, however, they possessed extremely powerful souls. As such, the Li tribal clan produces excellent alchemists and refiners. But at the same time, due to their low cultivation levels, they can't avoid the misfortune of being taken over by others. Where's the soul controller? The Li Consortium should have a lot of them too, right?" Su Yi asked. "Yes, but the Li clan has always had a long history and prided themselves on their talents. They have always looked down on the imperial palace and had little contact with the outside world, which gave the sacred mountain an opportunity," Situ Muyong said. Su Yi's heart thumped. Why were there evil deeds of the sacred mountain everywhere he went? Just how many more shameful things had the sacred mountain done? Li Shiran walked forward as the fragrance of clean clothes wafted into his nose. Her eyes were filled with clear blue waves as she sobbed. When the sacred mountain was first built, they discovered the Hundred Herb Mountain. They built the headquarters of the academy and the cultivation base here. Because we are natives, they did not chase us away. Instead, they asked us to provide them with elixirs and weapons for generations. Gradually, our Li clan became their subsidiary. The more Li Shiran spoke, the sadder she became. She paused, stabilized her emotions, and continued. However, with the sacred mountain's excessive demands, the entire Hundred Herb Mountain was taken over by them. Our Li clan's men also became the sparring disciples of the sacred mountain's disciples. The Li clan's children were often molested and humiliated by the sacred mountain's disciples. How despicable! Are the upper echelons of the sacred mountain blind? Do they not care? Situ Muyong created a gust of wind that split the collapsed beam in half. His eyes were burning with anger as he clenched his fists tightly. Sigh, the Li family's words carry little weight. How could they have the power to resist? The upper echelons of the Holy Mountain also know that we can't stir up any storm, so they just turn a blind eye to the obscene behavior of the Holy Mountain's elite disciples. As long as it doesn't get too big, they won't care at all. After that, the atmosphere of the sacred mountain temple suddenly froze. The flames in Su Yi's eyes also rose. He frowned and said in a deep voice, "Even so, if the Li clan had endured, the Li clan wouldn't have collapsed like this, right? What happened later that reduced you to begging for a living?" Li Shiran's eyes rolled as she pursed her lips. After a few breaths, she took a deep breath and said, "In fact, the Li clan settled in the Hundred Herb Mountain and never migrated because we have been the mountain guardians of the Hundred Herb Mountain for generations. There's a big secret in the Hundred Herb Mountain. It was at the last moment of our clan's destruction that Grandpa told us this." So he took a deep breath. His eyes, which were as cold as ice crystals, immediately lit up. He said, "Secret." Bang! As soon as his voice fell, Li Rant's eyes were filled with sadness. She knelt down again with her head lowered and her fists on the ground. "Yes, benefactor, I am already a dying man. If you can send my brother to the imperial palace, it can be considered as continuing the bloodline of the Li clan. I am willing to exchange this secret for it." The imperial palace and the Li clan both took the responsibility of refining pills. If Li Zhongshu could enter the imperial palace and make use of his advantages, it would naturally be best. "A dying man? Don't keep kneeling. Get up. I am not your benefactor. Speak properly. Maybe I can help you." Su Yi's eyes trembled. Li Rant's words made Su Yi even more puzzled. The Li clan had a congenital disease. Even if they didn't cultivate or refine their souls, they could live as an ordinary person for a long time. Then, Yuan Qi surged and shrouded Li Ran. "Yes, Lord. Everything is because of this secret. Since Su Yi fell out with the Sacred Mountain during the Sacred Martial Assembly, the Imperial Palace also fell out with the Sacred Mountain. After the assembly ended, the entire Sacred Mountain went crazy and made us study the soul-controlling technique. I don't know how the Sacred Mountain found out about this secret and forced Grandpa to hand it over. This touched our bottom line. In the end, the Li clan decided to resist." Su Yi raised his eyebrows. There is no need to say more about what happened after that. The Sacred Mountain destroyed the Li clan, and the Li clan's siblings escaped with the secret. They were reduced to begging in the central state city. A wave of killing intent spread out like a cold wave. After the Sacred Martial Assembly, so many things were involved. The Sacred Mountain made the Li clan continuously provide soul-refining experts and refiners, and also wanted them to hand over the secret. It was obvious that they were preparing to kill him and destroy the Imperial Palace. The Imperial Palace had a deep foundation and was extremely terrifying. The Sacred Mountain's wild ambition had reached such a stage. It seemed that this trip to the Imperial Palace was inevitable. Su Yi's hatred for the Sacred Mountain increased again. With a quick thought, Su Yi removed his disguise. Since Li Ran was honest with him, he didn't need to hide anymore. Immediately, an evil but not bewitching, arrogant and proud face was revealed. His face was handsome, and his eyes were clear and bright, as deep as a cold lake. Chapter 1498. Suddenly, Li Rant's expression froze, and surprise emerged in her eyes. She gently turned her head to the side, not daring to be serious, and said softly, "He is so good-looking." Situ Myong, seeing the change in Li Ran, also coughed, raised his eyebrows, and his eyes rolled around, whistling as he retreated to the back. Su Yi's expression became serious, and he said with a faint smile, "Miss Li, if you don't mind, can you let me visit you? Maybe I can cure your illness." Situ Myong saw that Su Yi had taken off his disguise, and he also took off his disguise. He laughed and interrupted, "Yes, Miss Li, if you let my martial granduncle take a look, I guarantee you won't lose out." Li Rant's eyes were burning, and a touch of red flew across her snow-white face. She said in a trembling voice, "Benefactor, can I really?" If she could cure her illness, she wouldn't have to be a burden to her brother, and the revival of the Li family would be hopeful. Facing Su Yi, Li Ran didn't even know his name, but a natural sense of dependence and security made Li Ran deeply believe that the man in front of her could bring a turning point in their lives. Boom! Immediately, Su Yi operated the Origin Supreme Art, and his eyes opened, shining brightly. His body suddenly lit up with a whirlpool-like light, and a terrible aura spread and swept across the entire mountain god temple. What a strong aura! Such a young person has such a deep aura? Is he a noble young master of some family? Li Rant's face was filled with surprise. She could feel the wave-like aura firmly wrapped around her, majestic and powerful, and very comfortable like a spring breeze in March. Since the opening of the hidden latch, Su Yi's understanding of Yuan Qi meridians has reached a new level, and his incomparable intimacy with Yuan Shi allowed Su Yi to infuse Yuan Shi into Li Shiran's meridians like a snake to explore the root of Li Shiran's illness. The boundless aura surged, causing Li Shiran's white robe to flutter. With a soft cry, her snow-white hands quickly covered her robe, revealing her snow-white collarbone. Having never been touched by a man at such a close distance, Li Shiran's face quickly turned red from her neck to her earlobes. "Calm your mind." Su Yi's voice poured into Li Shiran's ears like the sound of heaven. As soon as his voice fell, Su Yi entered a state of calmness. With the experience of treating Ah Chu, the supreme origin technique was extremely delicate, and like peeling silk from a cocoon, it made Li Shiran's meridians unimpeded. Looking at Su Yi's serious exploration, Li Shiran slowly closed her eyes and perceived the movement of her Yuan Shi. Gradually, her body was surrounded by the aura of Yuan Shi, and her aura was extremely surging, like the rise and fall of the sea. The aura was breathtaking. Li Shiran only felt the snake-like Yuan Shi pouring in her limbs and bones through her fingertips and skin. The Yuan Shi was like silk, exuding a milky white divine aura, constantly expanding her narrow and fragile meridians. She could clearly feel that the blocked area was gradually opening, and the heavy feeling that had accumulated in her chest all year round was alleviated a lot in an instant. Suddenly, Li Shiran's eyes flashed with a strange light, and she tightly pursed her lips, unable to suppress the surprise in her heart. Bang! After an unknown number of breaths, Li Shiran and Su Yi's body emitted a roaring sound. Lights surged and flickered, and an ancient pressure filled the mountain god temple. Su Yi continued to inject endless Yuan Qi from the great void sea, and finally found Li Shiran's dantian at the last moment. Sacred monarch, aura. His mind discovered that Li Shiran's dantian Qi sea was slightly shattered. Su Yi was stunned. The reason why Li Shiran was so weak was probably because of the sacred monarch aura's continuous erosion of her dantian Qi. Since the fuse of the Li tribal clan's collapse is inextricably linked to me, then let me do something for them. Su Yi muttered to himself. Li Shiran also felt that Su Yi had found her dantian, and her face that was already flushed with a hint of shyness. Her hands were tightly clenched, and her brows were slightly furrowed. The supreme art of origin combined with the dragon's breath should be able to devour the sacred monarch aura. Su Yi thought to himself. Li Shiran's cultivation was low, and she did not have the ability to expel the sacred monarch aura, which was why she became so weak. Only by removing it all at once could Li Shiran be completely healed. Continue. Boundless qi once again emanated from Su Yi's body. Su Yi and Li Shiran sat cross-legged with their eyes closed. Su Yi slowly channeled the great void Yuan Qi from his palms, and at the same time, a dragon's roar began to reverberate from his body. Li Shiran could no longer see anything, but she could feel the golden light in her body. In her limbs, bones, meridians, and acupoints, there was an ancient and vigorous energy of heaven and earth. It was very warm and tightly wrapped around her. Li Shiran gradually became intoxicated, as if she was in a dream. Golden Dragon. Li Shiran found that she was in a chaotic state. The spiritual energy around her was complex, but wisps of pure Yuan Qi were constantly pouring into her. Under the refinement of the energy of heaven and earth, Li Shiran's eyes gradually turned into a monstrous golden dragon that spanned across the sky. The golden dragon's scales and claws were sharp, and its fierce eyes stared at the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. Suddenly, Li Shiran felt that the spiritual energy was constantly being devoured by the monstrous golden dragon. The golden dragon rotated, and the spiritual energy of heaven and earth surged like a storm, sweeping in all directions. Large pieces of white light were peeled off like tiles in front of her eyes. The scene was very terrifying. Boom! The golden dragon roared, and the wind and thunder clashed. The dull sound was like the wind and thunder. The golden dragon's giant claws kept flapping, and the whole world suddenly turned into a flowing golden river. The golden dragon's incomparably huge body moved horizontally and vertically, bringing with it an unparalleled dragon's might from ancient times. The dragon flew in the sky, and the surging force directly absorbed the turbid spiritual energy. The dragon's breath, under the supreme art of origin, burst out an unparalleled aura of destruction. At this time, Li Shiran was already dumbfounded. The endless energy was not only in her dantian, but also enveloped her whole body. It was like being in a golden waterfall, nourishing and repairing her from the inside out. Situ Muyang, who was on the side, was even more shocked. Su Yi sat cross-legged, like the incarnation of a golden dragon, with a golden halo intertwined. From the inside to the outside of Su Yi's body, there was a 5-clawed golden dragon phantom behind him. The dragon's head was ferocious, and the dragon's tail was engraved on the bones of his legs. A dragon's might filled the entire mountain god temple, and the whole void trembled. Golden dragon's breath. Looking at Su Yi, who was like an old monk in meditation, giving people a sense of overbearing destruction like the birth of a giant beast for no reason, and Li Shiran's body on the opposite side also revealed a kind of divine golden light. Situ Muyang swallowed a mouthful of saliva, and his eyes were filled with shock. Chapter 1499. After a while, Li Shiran's beautiful eyelashes moved slightly, and a golden light suddenly shot out from between her eyebrows, directly piercing a terrible hole in the broken wall of the mountain god temple. The surging energy spread between heaven and earth like a tornado between heaven and earth. Bang! Situ Muyang was hit by the huge energy storm, and his figure staggered. He ran the wind attribute Yuan Qi and slid a few steps back before stopping. His eyes were full of surprise as he stared blankly at the changes around Su Yi and Li Shiran. The two of them were like gods descending to the earth, full of charm, and the ancient dragon roar continued for a long time, as if it came from the ancient times. Su Yi and Li Shiran opened their eyes at the same time, and a bright light burst out from their eyes. The dense light was like a cloud. If one could look inside, they would see that the meridians in Li Shiran's body were already unimpeded. The small and dense scars in her dantian had been wrapped by the Yuan Qi of the Origin Supreme technique, and it would not take long for them to be completely healed. Li Shiran, who was aware of this, her face changed again. Su Yi not only opened her meridians, but also swallowed all the Saint King's Qi in her dantian. The remaining vast heaven and earth energy in her body was getting more and more abundant, as if forming a vortex, making a low rumbling sound, like the rotation of wind and thunder. At this moment, because the Yuan Qi in her body was getting more and more abundant, her face became very rosy. Her shy face was like peach blossoms reflecting the snow, delicate and beautiful. Compared to her pale face just now, there was more of a gentle feeling. A calm and graceful appearance suddenly appeared. Even without makeup, it was enough to moisturize people's hearts. Even Situ Muyang, who still had a child's heart, was a little entranced. Li Shiran raised her head, opened her hands, and looked at the changes in her body. Her eyes were full of splendor, and she looked at Su Yi in disbelief, faintly fluctuating. Then she lowered her face again, and her earlobes were as red as silk, not daring to look at Su Yi again. Phew! Su Yi withdrew his hand sign and spat out a long breath of turbid Yuan Qi from his throat. The 4 Yuan Qi halos around him gradually dissipated. He thought to himself that if it was not for the endless Yuan Qi of the great void divine sea, he would not be able to completely cure Li Shiran's chronic illness. The Origin Supreme technique was abnormal. Now that he had only opened the first hidden gate, it was twice as powerful as his previous cultivation. If he fought hard, he could even fight with a 4th-level Origin Emperor. Su Yi wondered what would happen if all 108 profound entrances were opened. He had to quickly think of a way to find more Origin Ancestor Realm practitioners to train with. Su Yi's eyes flickered with anticipation. What are you thinking? Zong Realm is everywhere, everywhere, everywhere. Su Yi smiled bitterly and shook his head. Bang! Li Shi ran slowly bent down and respectfully kowtowed 3 times on the ground. Her face was solemn and slightly excited, and there was a sparkling light in her eyes. Thank you. Thank you. Not only did you save me, but you also saved Ah Chu. I have no way to repay you. Li Shiran's voice was choked with sobs after she finished speaking. Her slender fingers gently wiped the tears from her eyes. Su Yi's expression changed slightly. At the age of 15 or 16, he was eroded by the chi of the sage monarch. His body was so weak that he could not personally avenge the Li tribe. He could not even do it as an ordinary person. He could only rely on his brother to accumulate jade stones and absorb the energy of heaven and earth. Thinking of this, Su Yi felt a tinge of bitterness in his heart. If Suwon was like this outside, what should he do? Immediately, he stepped forward and gently helped Li Shiran up. Her soft and boneless body was like silk. Even the plain white robe could not hide her amazing curves. He said softly, "The damage to your dantian was caused by the chi of the sage monarch. It should have been caused by the battle with the sacred mountain that day, right?" Li Shiran nodded sadly and said faintly, "That day, in order to let us escape successfully, Grandpa took a full blow from that thief. I happened to be next to him at that time. The huge shock wave almost killed me. Fortunately, Ah Chu helped me escape. We begged all the way to Zhongzhou City." "Didn't the people from the sacred mountain chase you?" Sita Muyang asked doubtfully. The distance from 100 Herb Mountain to here was not far, but it was not close either. But for people with low cultivation, it was an extremely difficult journey. "Yes, but we escaped several times," Li Shiran hurriedly said, and then lowered her head. Her eyes flickered a little, as if there was something she wanted to say. Su Yi's eyes flashed with a trace of light, and said in a deep voice, "There will definitely be a chase, but it's too despicable to occupy the secrets of the human race. Even the sacred mountain doesn't dare to make it public." With just a few words, he covered up this topic. After that, all 3 of them fell silent. Just now, Su Yi still had some doubts in his heart. Li Shiran and Ah Chu's cultivation were low. So how did they safely escape the pursuit of the sacred mountain? And although this mountain god temple was inconspicuous, it was still easy for the sacred mountain to find it. Su Yi's eyes suddenly became deep and boundless. It seemed that this little brother and sister had some secrets of their own. Li Shiran didn't want to talk about it, so there must be some scruples, so it was better not to ask. After a while, Li Shiran pursed her lips tightly and looked at Su Yi. Li Shiran's beautiful eyes rippled with grief. "Young master, Uncle Chun was really?" And Su Yi sighed softly and nodded, indicating that he acquiesced, and then a killing intent emerged in his eyes. Li Shiran's eyes were filled with tears again. Li Shiran looked back at Ah Chu lying on the ground and said with a painful expression, "In the past year or so, thanks to Ah Chu, at first, I didn't know where he got the primordial stones, but he was always able to exchange them for some elixirs for me, which allowed me to prolong my life and prolong my life." Su Yi and Sita Muyang's eyes trembled. They couldn't say that Ah Chu made a living as a storyteller in Zhongzhou City, right? Later, I guess that all of this was related to Uncle Chun. Li Shiran's eyes were filled with tears as she recalled. "Uncle Chun was the only good person we met when we escaped. After we fled all the way to the mountain god temple, Uncle Chun kindly took us in. According to Uncle Chin's recollection, he used to be a famous thief in Zhongzhou City. Later, he was discovered and his dantian was destroyed. He pitied me and my brother, so he taught Ah Chu some shallow martial skills and superb stealing skills. Therefore, Ah Chu became more clever from then on. I myself was a half-crippled person, so I could only let Ah Chu do whatever he wanted. Every day, I could only pray that they didn't make trouble outside and could come back safely." Speaking of this, Li Shiran's body moved slightly, and said with a painful groan, "But I didn't expect that in the end. I still received this news." You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.